bird's eye view now of this area where we have reports of shots being fired, but that's all we know. We know ambulances are here, and we could see them being followed by several police vehicles.
Yeah, we're hearing word of police activity. At this point, again, we do not know who has been shot, but obviously we see the ambulances being followed by a number of police officers. This is in southwest Houston, inside the Beltway, the 8700 block of Sterling Game. This is south of West Belfort. They are now getting on the road, as you can see, headed to a nearby hospital. We've got multiple crews working this story to bring us any details we're able to get. At this point, though, we are only hearing of reports of shots being fired and police activity in this southwest Houston neighborhood. But as you can see there right now, a real caravan of ambulances and police cars headed to the hospital.
And clearly we need to mention here, as you well know, rarely do you have ambulances being followed by 3 or 4, even 5. You count at least 4 officers following these ambulances. So clearly this is something that is far more important at this point. Let's go to Don Armstrong. You've been watching the activity, Don. We've been watching you kind of swing around and take a look at this as well. But this is unusual when you have this many officers following ambulances.
Art, I'm sorry. I had somebody talking to in my ear. We understand that there are a couple of officers in these ambulances. That's why there's so many behind the ambulances. And we understand that these 2 officers are being taken to Ben Taub Hospital. That is all we know at this point. We don't know anything more, just that they are being transported to Ben Taub Hospital.
Okay, so I assume then that has been confirmed and that we can report that.
And this is, and again, I just wanted to mention that this is what we understand.
Okay.
This is not confirmed.
Okay.
That there are a couple of police officers here. Again, not confirmed, but we're on our way down to Ben Taub Hospital. We don't know what transpired and why 2 officers were shot. We just arrived on the scene when the ambulances took off and are heading down 59, the Southwest Freeway now. And so we really don't have many details. We'll be back to the scene here shortly, Art, but that's pretty much all the information that I have for you right now.
Well, Don, I know you were over the scene momentarily. Did you see a lot of police vehicles there at that location?
Melanie, we never really got to that point, but obviously there were a lot of them there, and as you can see in my picture there's a lot of them following these ambulances, so we assume that all of these were at the scene. This is a developing story, so we don't have much information, and you're learning it just as I am.
Yeah, and it almost looks as though they're clearing the road around them, because at this point you can see so many police vehicles both in front of and alongside and behind those 2 ambulances. Again, we don't know a lot of details at this point. We have only been hearing it was police activity, police-involved activity at that scene. But we do believe at this point that there are 2 police officers inside those ambulances headed to Ben Taub. As Art says, that's when you see a caravan of police vehicles like this following the ambulances. This is again in the 8700 block of Sterling Game where this all began, south of West Belfort. This is just inside the Beltway in southwest Houston. We do have crews both at the hospital and at that location, and we are just awaiting word on more details at this point. But where are they traveling right now, Don? Where are we headed?
Well, we're currently on 59, the Southwest Freeway, heading inbound northbound here at Gessner. And as you can see, a large contingency of police officers here. We also just heard, and again, this is unconfirmed, that there was a couple of burglary suspects involved in this, but again, that is unconfirmed.
We can confirm this is what we can confirm right now, Don, and this was just whispered into my ear, that indeed 2 officers were injured. We don't know the extent of their injuries, and we don't know whether they've been shot, but we do know that they have been injured, and each is riding in one of these ambulances. Now, clearly this is an emergency situation when you have that many police officers sort of giving way and making a path for those ambulances, as well being followed by at least half a dozen patrol units there and patrol cars moving quite along a good clip right there on the 59 freeway all the way to Ben Taub Hospital. But we don't know the extent of their injuries again, but watching this very closely, heavy police presence as they make their way to the hospital.
And we actually heard that word from HPD directly via Twitter that there are 2 injured officers in those ambulances, or 2 officers have been injured.
Yeah.
At this point, what we do know is just that it is an officer-involved shooting. We know there are 2 officers injured, that they are being taken to Bentop Hospital, and as you can see for yourself looking at these live pictures from Sky Eye, they are being followed by just a long line of police vehicles, squad cars there, both in front, alongside, and behind them. We do not know, though, at this point about suspects, how many they may be looking for, if there were suspects at the scene. One certainly presumes that if they have been somehow injured. But at this point, we are still getting details in to the Eyewitness Newsroom.
Yeah, still trying to gather the information. Again, this took place in Sterling Road over there in Southwest Houston, the 8700 block. That's where it originally started. That's where all of these officers were, as well as the ambulances. We got a hold of this story and had Sky Eye over the scene there as the ambulances were leaving that area. Not sure of the extent of the injuries of those 2 officers, but we do know that one officer is riding in the front ambulance, another in the back ambulance, and being followed by, and being, I guess, in the front there as well, by at least perhaps 8 or 9 patrol units.
I would say probably closer to a dozen, but
yeah,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Surrounding those ambulances.
So they're making a clear path right to Bentop Hospital. We have a crew over there at Bentop Hospital as well, one of the finest trauma centers in all of the country, and certainly one of the best right here in Houston. So they will take good care of these officers, no doubt, and we hope the extent of their injuries is not too severe.
Yeah. At this point, still no idea on their condition. Only what we are being told is that 2 officers have been injured, and as we say, we are hearing that directly from HPD on Twitter. That is what they tweeted out just a short while ago. As Art mentioned, Bentop, one of only 2 level 1 trauma centers in our city, and certainly where you take the most, the people that are in need of your help immediately always go to Bentop, and certainly that is where most police officers are taken in any event.
No doubt, once they arrive at Bentop, they're already preparing for their arrival. They will have the full escort service right into that emergency room. We will be right there live as well, watching this as it takes place. But 2 officers, when 2 officers are injured, again, not sure how they were injured, not sure if it was a shooting or something else. None of that can be confirmed, but we can confirm that 2 officers have been injured somehow in this incident, which played out in the 8700 block of Southwest Houston and Sterling Road. And we had reports as well that was part of a robbery that took place there, but that is also unconfirmed. We're not sure of the circumstances that took place.
What we do know is that there is a heavy police presence in that neighborhood, even now. At this point, neighbors have been letting each other know. Apparently, officers have been going door to door in that area. But there is a heavy police presence. Again, this is the 8700 block of Sterling Game where this all began. That is south of West Belford and just inside the Beltway in Southwest Houston. We do know that 2 officers were injured. At one point, we'd even heard that SWAT may have been close by on that scene. That has not been confirmed either. But we have been told that these 2 officers were injured and are being taken by ambulance to Bentop Hospital.
They are moving along pretty good clip as well, which is certainly good. You can see them passing by vehicles really quickly here, almost as if they're almost standing still, but they're moving along quite well. Yeah, as you said, Mel, there must be a dozen units there, in front and in the middle and the back, sort of giving them clearance on the freeway there on 59. They're on 59 coming in, and they'll be taking 59 all the way to, to probably Fannin or something like that, their Main Street, and then head to Bentop.
But they are kind of clearing out the traffic, and obviously if you're driving along 59 north towards downtown and you spot a whole bunch of police cars in your rear view mirror, you start to move on over a lane or 2 to allow them to get by you. But yeah, they are moving at a pretty good pace. And again, they are traveling by ground, though. Sometimes in these cases we do see life flight on the scene. That was not the case this time around. They did bring 2 ambulances by ground to take them to the hospital. Again, we don't know a whole lot other than that there are 2 injured officers.
Don, have you been able to see anything from that bird's eye view over anything that we perhaps have missed?
No, Art, I haven't. You've described it quite well. We've been showing the ambulances, but there's a large contingency of HPD cruisers clearing the freeway up ahead, as you can just imagine.
Right.
And, we should be in the med center here very soon.
Yeah,
also, motorcycle escort has joined us as well.
Okay, they're right under those bridges, which have been lit up by those LED lights. They recently put those on as a result of the Super Bowl. They're going to be approaching Main Street up here very quickly, passing already Buffalo Speedway and Kirby and
yeah, they're down below Dunleavy.
Right, and Greenspoint, all of that area. They're already past that area. But eventually they're going to be making it there to Main Street and moving forward very, very quickly. And it's possible that they might be going to some of the Memorial Hermann. That's a possibility, we understand. So we're not confirming Ben Taub, but it's possible, and we've just had some instruction here that that's a very real possibility. Now, this traffic right here, this always exists right there on the 59 that they just passed, and it's clear that they've stopped traffic.
Yeah, they really have. They pull people over to the side until they can get those two ambulances there. We should mention that Ben Taub and Memorial Hermann right next door to each other, both level 1 trauma centers. So, you know, obviously there will be a determination made as to which spot both of those officers go. We do not know, again, what the extent of their injuries are, how they were injured at this point, only that there are 2 injured officers in those ambulances.
Yeah.
And you can see traffic pulling over everywhere, including some of those giant trucks.
They certainly are. They're approaching that, what may be the 288 exit right over there, just off 59.
Yeah, I would imagine they're probably going to head that way and maybe get off at McGregor and head, because that would bring them directly to that area. Yeah,
and you can see all the officers in front, in the middle, and behind. They are creating a passage here. Just that escort is incredible, which they have, and you can see. Look at the freeway right there. That's 288.
That's exactly
right.
They
have completely stopped traffic on 288, shutting it down on both directions. So this is an escort, the type you see that is only reserved for those whom are, you know, wanting to get to the hospital as quickly as possible. We're talking about police officers in those ambulances. So there is the area of where it happened, which is over there near the 610 South Loop, and they're having to drive all the way, of course, to Ben Taub or Memorial Hermann, and now they're on 288, and they'll be making an exit here very soon to get to the hospital.
Probably there on McGregor, so that they can turn back around and get to. At this point, we don't know a great deal, but we want to share with you what we do know. This all started off in the 8700 block of Sterling Game. This is southwest Houston, south of West Beltway, and inside the Beltway, or south of West Belford, I should say, inside the Beltway. We know that 2 officers were injured at that location. It happened just before 12:30, and there are reports of a lot of police activity in that area by neighbors who lived there. HPD officers did say on Twitter, HPD said that there were 2 officers injured. They did not offer a whole lot more information than that. But we do know there was a police-involved shooting there of some sort or another. We also don't know about suspects, how many there were, if they're still looking for people. But we have heard there is still a heavy police presence in that area. So they are now getting off and heading straight over. As we mentioned, either Ben Taub or Memorial Hermann, which are right next door to each other in the medical center. And you can see in that entire medical center area, they've already blocked off the streets. They have officers ahead, which have created that sort of open door and that escort. Going through Hermann Park right now. Hermann Park right now, right. The zoo is right around that area. We'll perhaps see a bit of that before they get into the actual medical center area. And moving along still quite well. At a very good pace, and they've just had an open door as far as traffic is concerned, because they've been able to stop the traffic at all the way through the 59, which is incredible, and then even on the 288 they stopped traffic, and now on McGregor. And as you well know, in the medical center, usually an awful lot of traffic there, but they seem to have cleared the roads all the way, so that there is no one else at this point except those 2 ambulances and all of those cars. Yeah, you can see there at the intersection, everybody has been stopped. Right. And this, I believe, is I think they call this the medical loop or something, but it is going to literally take them right up to Ben Taub and to Memorial Hermann, whichever is designated to receive them.
It works out so beautifully when they orchestrate things like this, because they know exactly where they need to go, what to do, and all the officers are in motion. And one officer, we understand, is going to Bentop Hospital.
Okay, so there's our answer. One was taken to Memorial Hermann, one will be taken to Bentop. I believe Bentop just turned off first, and it looks as though the second one is now going to Memorial Hermann, and they will be top priority for the doctors and medical staff who are waiting to receive them at this point.
So there you have the officer being backed up right now. You can see Bentop Hospital right there. Now, this is the hospital which was only a week ago under lockdown and which was evacuated, and we saw dozens of residents as well as individuals that were in intensive care. They had to be evacuated.
After a strange call and reports of shots fired, as it turned out.
Now, you'll have all the officers lined up there. Now, they always will do that just to prevent anyone from being able to get a view of the officer as he's taken out of that ambulance.
And you can see a real army of officers standing there. They have been waiting, many of them there at the hospital, for the ambulance to arrive. And as we say, the other ambulance headed on down the road, we presume to go to the trauma center at Memorial Hermann, which is right next door.
Memorial Hermann has a first-rate trauma center, one of the best as well. The two first-class trauma centers here in Houston and among the best throughout the Texas area. But there you have the officers. You will have the same scenario which exists here at Bentop at the trauma center with the officers. Now there you can see
someone is being rolled out. You can
rolled
see them
out
now.
Into the emergency room.
And other officers running up to arrive.
Yeah. And so that officer has already been taken into the emergency room. He's going to be cared for immediately with the best doctors.
And we're looking at on the left-hand side, we're looking at Memorial Hermann their ER. And we can't see as deeply into the hospital as we can with Bentop, but you can see that's where we saw officers running up, no doubt, to greet the ambulance that is arriving there. So both of these hospitals placed on high alert. Both of these officers, as is tradition, will be rushed right into the ER and evaluated and dealt with. There are doctors and medical staff standing by waiting to receive them as we pull back and take a look at the full medical center there, just to give you some sense of where this is all happening.
Medical center here in Houston, one of the finest in the entire country, and this is one of the largest as well. This employs, there's nearly 30,000 employees here at the medical center with a couple of the best trauma units in the entire country as well. This is Memorial Hermann we're looking at now. Before we were looking at Bentop. Now, Memorial Hermann, presumably they've already taken that officer out, but we're not sure. We can see the officers gathering there, but again, they have that stretcher. They'll take them out. They immediately rush them into the emergency room and go ahead and work on them as quickly as possible.
And we do have ground crews there at the hospitals at this point, and we will be hearing from them in just a little while as soon as they are able to bring us some kind of a report. But in the meantime, what we do know is that both officers have now arrived at their destination. One at Memorial Hermann, one at Bentop Hospital.
Don, no reporters on the ground yet at either hospital, or they're presumably getting their way there and setting up. I know we already have a camera view from the ground there at Memorial Hermann, but at this point we don't have the reporters there ready to speak yet, but they will be more momentarily. The helicopter, by the way, you saw that shot over the city. He's headed back to that, I believe, the 8700 block of Sterling Game Road to go ahead and get them other activity there.
Well, an interesting decision to send one officer to each hospital, because then you have the full attention of that medical staff at that particular hospital instead of having to divide them up between the two. And we have seen this in the past, but the decision has been made to make this an absolute top priority for the medical staff at both of those level 1 trauma centers. Again, this all started a little bit after 12:30 in southwest Houston. It's just inside the Beltway, a street called 8700 Sterling Game, just south of West Belford there. There were reports of shots being fired and some kind of officer-involved shooting, according to HPD's Twitter account. They said 2 officers injured, and we certainly saw the 2 ambulances taking off. What we have been watching is the transportation from that location here, and as you saw for yourself, the freeways cleared, the traffic cleared there in the medical center. Everybody held back while they got those 2 officers into two respective hospitals there, level 1 trauma centers, into their emergency room.
Always a tragedy when we hear, of course, from those who are injured or in some degree killed in the line of duty. This is something that, of course, we always watch very, very closely, and especially when it involves police officers.
We are seeing the police chief, Officer Acevedo. He is offering a prayer there, and we are not able to see it, but we understand that that is what's going on right now.
So the police chief is right now at Memorial Hermann. Okay, and he's tweeting.
All right, he is tweeting out to please pray for the officers. And he is headed in. We know that is at the very top of his priority list, is getting there to the hospital to see both of those officers. And we're looking at his tweet right now.
On the way to officer-involved shooting, if you're a person of faith, please pray for our officers. That is coming from the chief, Acevedo.
And that's coming from his personal account.
Right.
We also saw some tweets coming
now,
from
at
HPD's
this point,
account.
we can confirm, before we've just been saying officers injured, but we can confirm that it was a shooting. And the reason we can confirm that it was a shooting is because the captain himself indicated that it was an officer-involved shooting through that tweet. So we do know that 2 officers were injured as a result of a shooting, officer-involved shooting there. So we're watching this very closely. Do not know the extent of the officers, so that's important to note here.
Well, we have gotten a bit of a timeline, which is very helpful. And yes. Oh, all right. In the meantime, we're going to go back to Sky Eye and follow him back to the scene. But around 12:20 is when the first reports of an officer-involved shooting came in Southwest Houston. About 12:40, that's when Sky Eye was able to get over the scene, and we saw those ambulances leaving the scene headed for the medical center. So very quickly, there were people who got to the scene, emergency vehicles there, and as you saw for yourself, a lot of police officers already there on the scene. It was 12:57 when those officers arrived at the hospitals in the Texas Medical Center. HPD confirming on Twitter just moments before that 1 officer would go to Bentop, 1 would go to Memorial Hermann. And HPD has confirmed on Twitter that the officers were injured. As Art just said, our chief indicated that they were shot and asked people to please pray also on Twitter.
Yeah. Okay, so here we have on the left, you have the helicopter headed back to the scene. He's headed to the scene of 8700 block of Sterling Game. So we're going to get back to that location. I understand that's where Marla Carter is.
Marla Carter, actually, I believe, is at the hospital at Memorial Hermann.
Okay.
Marla, there you are. Can you tell us what's going on right now?
Hello, Melanie. Yes, we are just outside of Memorial Hermann, and we just saw some officers pull in here with an ambulance. This is the scene we're seeing right now on our way here to the Med Center. We traveled from 59, and we saw a number of entrances and exit ramps blocked off so that they could allow the traffic along the freeway to get here for those officers. And an ambulance has arrived here right now. We did see somebody taken inside. We've seen 1 ambulance at this point. We're told there may be another ambulance. Heavy police presence here as well as that ambulance was escorted in. No word on the condition of that officer at this point in time. But again, 1 officer did arrive here, at least 1 ambulance, we believe, with a police escort. We did see somebody that appeared to be a loved one or a family member here as well that seemed obviously very much in distress once that ambulance arrived. But again, no word at this point on time on the condition of that officer. They just arrived here a few minutes ago, but you can certainly see a lot of police officers out here at this point in time. Heavy traffic as they were brought in, but certainly cleared the way for them to get here in a very timely and quick fashion.
And Marla, have you just seen those police cars arriving as you've been there and police officers going in?
I'm sorry, Melanie, I couldn't hear you there.
Have you just seen a lot of police cars arriving and officers going in as you all have been waiting there?
Yes, and in fact, we just saw the mayor arrive here as well. I think our photographer just got a shot of that as well. The mayor, Sylvester Turner, just arrived here on scene, along with a lot of police officers, heavy police presence. And now they've kind of parked and scattered them, but it was definitely when we were driving in, we saw a lot, and especially when those officers arrived here on scene. Again, a huge police presence, ensuring that these officers arrived here quickly as possible. And we're still hearing a lot of sirens as well. We've heard a number of sirens really over the past 10 or 15 minutes as they made their way here.
Hey, Marla, as you continue to watch this very closely, I don't know whether you were there in time, but did you see the officers visibly praying? Because we understand that even the chief was over there with the officers as they pulled him out of the ambulance. And he tweeted out as well, the chief did, "Please pray for our officers if you are a person of faith." So were you able to witness that taking place?
You know, from where we're standing, we were not able to actually see that. They were really surrounded by a great number of officers. Again, as soon as that ambulance arrived and the ambulance parked, we saw a whole bunch of officers really surrounding it. I'm sorry? He was just brought in. Our photographer that is shooting this, he said that the officer that was shot was just brought inside of the hospital. And again, we just saw Sylvester Turner, the mayor, go inside there as well. And you can see that group of officers, a heavy presence here right now. I'm sure they are very devastated. Praying, of course, always. I know I've talked to officers in the past, and they said this is just really one of the hardest parts of their job. Is they are a brotherhood. And this type of situation, it really is very personal for them. It's very difficult for them, and I know the community is praying for them as well. So certainly everyone's thinking about them praying for that officer, but I know that he did just arrive, and certainly you can just tell by the number of officers out here, the ones blocking the roadway, and to ensure that he or she got here in a quick fashion, that there is definitely a lot of prayers and a lot of thoughts for that officer who's now inside Memorial Hermann.
Marla, if you will stand by just for a moment, because we want to continue talking to you, but at the same time we want to direct our viewers to the right side of their screen right now. This is the location where this officer-involved shooting happened, the 8700 block of Sterling Game. As you can see, there are lots of police officers on the scene. A moment ago, we saw what looked like an officer going through a truck there. We still have very sketchy details on what happened to set this off, but it looks like Christine Dobbin is at that location. She may be getting ready to bring us a report. Christine, can you hear us?
Yes, Melanie, we just arrived on scene. In fact, we tried to move down the street and police actually moved us back. They're setting up the staging area here and a lot of activity back there that they don't want anybody, any civilians or media. We're off of Sam Houston West Parkway in Oglethorpe, and we have seen dozens of police cars, even as we were on our way here, driving very quickly to the scene with lights on, so you could certainly tell there was something very urgent going on in this neighborhood. And I can see law enforcement from several different precincts and jurisdictions here assisting. We see a lot of SWAT officers still moving back into the neighborhood, and we also just saw a K9 unit. The officer jumped in the back of a pickup truck, and they moved him back into that neighborhood. We can see the police helicopter above, so it appears they are still searching for at least one or two individuals here in the area. So a very active scene as we're at this Valero gas station, which is the staging area, as all these officers move back into the neighborhood and they get assistance from other departments.
There is certainly a heavy presence there, Christine, and certainly for good reason here. When you're talking about suspects who are involved in an officer-involved shooting, clearly that just raises a level of urgency. And you can see now, as we look at an aerial view, we're looking at several officers in a backyard. They're clearly searching. We saw that K9 earlier. So the police presence there must be extraordinary.
It is extraordinary, and we're just at one location. It was a little difficult to get in here because they have a large perimeter taped off here. There's a park across the way here. We also saw several officers with guns in the park, so they're really locking down this area. If there are suspects in here trying to just sort of corner them off, but the helicopters flying above, and then the officers just completely circling this area. Now, and as I mentioned, you were talking about the urgency, and certainly as we were on our way here, you could feel it and you could see it when you saw the officers going by you, and we saw probably a dozen at different times, and you knew something serious is going on here.
Absolutely, and we can see now the aerial view of the officers talking with perhaps neighbors. They seem to be inspecting just about everything, and as well, we only saw one K9 unit, but were there others as well? Have you seen a great deal, several other dogs? Because when it comes to searching,
actually, there's one. Art, I want to show you right now. There's another one pulling up right here, so we're probably going to see some activity, assuming that he has his canine with him here, get out of the vehicle and move into the area. And this is the Glenshire neighborhood. I can see the sign. You can see that canine officer moving in closer.
Right.
And I can even see some residents standing just in their garage. The garage door is open, watching all of this activity. You can see that canine driving pretty quickly into the area, more officers moving in. So I have no idea how many police officers, but dozens in this entire area. So we're talking several blocks along the Sam Houston West Parkway and going into the neighborhood, and I can also see them on the other side of the perimeter.
Yeah, we're looking at sky eye pictures right now, and you can literally see just police officers and vehicles almost as far as the eye can see. And can you tell if they're asking people to stay inside their homes at this point? And by the way, we're looking at some heavily armed officers there too as well, wearing their bulletproof vests and even helmets. But Christine, are people being asked to stay inside?
I have not heard them ask individuals personally, but I would imagine they are. I'm actually surprised to see those people down the street, because we were asked to move back as we were trying to get into the neighborhood, and we saw the heavily armed officers, and they said, whoa, 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 we don't want anyone else in here. We'd like you to move back. So we moved back here, but I'm surprised that those folks are actually standing there in their garage like that, because obviously this could be a potentially dangerous situation, not knowing if the man or men are still in the neighborhood, and what they might be capable of if they are accused of shooting two police officers.
Absolutely. And we see, boy, just the police presence from the aerial vehicle, from the aerial view, Christine, is incredible. There's so many police officers as well as officer units, what appears to be SWAT out there as well. I assume that they've cordoned off this entire neighborhood, and every vehicle that's coming or going, they're going to be searching.
Absolutely, and there are officers positioned nearly at every street that goes into the neighborhood and comes out of the neighborhood. So they're being very cautious as people are arriving. And I can see Precinct 5 here, Precinct 7, HPD, Sheriff's Office, just more and more law enforcement moving into that area. As that call came, I'm sure many units were rushing here to the scene.
Yeah, and as we're looking now at pictures of the neighborhood, Glenshire, I believe you told us it was, from the air, you can see just, a lovely neighborhood there, lots of homes, very heavily residential, and I'm sure many of the residents are shocked when they looked outside their window and saw all of these police officers pulling up in front of their homes. But you can certainly see, even in the backyards there are police officers. And apparently they are searching for suspect or suspects. At this point, we do not know how many. Let's head on back over to Ben Taub. As we mentioned, Marla Carter was at Memorial Hermann Hospital there in the medical center where one officer was taken. Maya Shea is next door at Ben Taub Hospital, where we saw the first officer arrive in the ambulance there. Maya, can you tell us what kind of activity you're seeing?
Well, you can first of all, that ambulance right there that our viewers saw on Sky brought in, and surrounding that, we have seen a number of different police officers come and go. I saw members of the police officers union here going inside, as well as the staff for Mayor Sylvester Turner, who also have gone inside. Now, this is one of two, of course, level 1 trauma centers in the medical center, Memorial Hermann being the other one. So we know the officer is inside getting treatment right now, and surrounding the area, you're seeing a number of police officers. If we can actually pan the camera maybe to your right, so we can see just a number of the police forces here, not just officers, but also investigators, as well as fire department. You can see the police cars going all the way around the corner here, as well as a number of officers here on the scene. So a massive response here at Ben Taub Hospital. We don't yet know the condition of the specific officer who is being treated here. That is some information we are working on getting right now. We know the mayor's security staff there. You see the gentleman right there walking on the phone. He's a member of the security detail for Mayor Sylvester Turner. He's heading inside right now, as well as I see some the police union. One of the vice presidents with the police union is standing right under the awning under the EMS police entrance sign. The gentleman in the gray suit, he's with the police officers union. So you see all the support folks are here on scene, as well as number of officers, some longtime officers. I see some assistant chiefs and captains who have been on the force for 20-plus years here. Obviously, this is not the place they like to gather. This is not a situation that they would like to have to deal with, but they are here to support that officer, making sure he gets the treatment he needs, and then when family members do show up, that they get whatever support they might need in this situation as well.
And Maya, we do know that whenever there is an officer involved shooting, the word goes out immediately to all of the men and women in uniform, and they immediately rush to the hospitals, as you say, to offer support for their colleague, for their brother or sister in arms. Have you seen the mayor go into Ben Taub? We heard just a moment ago from Marla Carter that she believed he'd gone into Memorial Hermann. Do you know if he's making that next stop?
Well, you know, the way the mayor's security staff works is they have advanced teams going in to different places. So if he's at Memorial Hermann, what they would do is they have some of the advanced folks here making sure the scene is secure, and then he would make this transition. I have not personally seen the mayor come this direction, so he perhaps will be here after visiting the first situation. We do know some members of the police union are here, as well as a number of the support staff and some of the longtime chiefs, assistant chiefs, and captains, people who have been here for many, many years. We've also seen some homicide investigators actually walk in as well, no doubt to talk to the officers if he or she is in any shape to communicate and tell them anything related to this specific investigation. Supervisor from the fire department also just pulled up a few minutes ago. Obviously, still a developing situation here, but if you ever need trauma care here in the greater Houston area, Ben Taub and Memorial Hermann, no better place to get some of the best medical care in the world. These are doctors and nurses who deal with situations like this, shootings, stabbings, trauma, life-saving things every day on a day-in, day-out basis. So there is no better place to get medical treatment than where they are right now.
Well, they're certainly going to receive that. Thank you, Maya. We appreciate that reporting out of Ben Taub Hospital as we continue to watch and wait for word. Now, what Chief Acevedo has always been good about in any of these circumstances, thank you, Maya, is that he always will come out and will eventually talk to the media, and he does so rather quickly as well. We're going to turn now to Memorial Hermann as we continue to watch. We'll continue to watch these pictures from Sky Eye. Again, this is the 8700 block of Sterling game, Southwest Houston, but look at them. Look at the fully armed, completely armed with K9s, going from home to home in their backyard. And these are incredible pictures as they continue to search for the suspects who were involved in this officer-involved shooting. Again, to recap, if you've joined us, 2 officers were shot. Not sure of the extent of their injuries, but they were shot right around this area in the 8700 block of Sterling game. That's where the initial report came in. But they are searching all of these residences around here.
Yeah, now looking for a suspect or suspects. We want to go now and keep this picture up if we can, so we can continue to look at that. But go back to Marla Carter, who was at Memorial Hermann there. Just a reminder, a little bit earlier, there was a tweet sent out by the police chief asking if you are a person of faith, please pray for our officers. But Marla's standing by now. Marla, I know you said a little while ago you saw the mayor going into Memorial Hermann. Have you seen the police chief as of yet?
Well, so I actually want to make a slight correction that I just talked to our photographer, and he said it was actually the security detail. We didn't actually see the mayor, just like what Maya said. So I do want to correct that. But his security detail was here at Memorial Hermann, just like they've been at Ben Taub. So we're not entirely sure if the mayor himself was in that group, but certainly an indication that he could be here. Getting an update from our photographer right now.
Councilman Jerry Davis.
Oh, Councilman Jerry Davis just arrived as well here. And we also saw the police department spokesperson, John Cannon, arrive. So we are expecting to get an update at least from him and to give you some more details because, of course, we all have a lot of questions right now. We do not know the extent of injuries to this officer or either officer, or including this one here at Memorial Hermann. And I know, again, a lot of people are here and praying for them and thinking for them. I can tell you that there was a huge police response. If you are looking live at our picture, you can see a lot of traffic traffic here in the Med Center. When we arrived, just before that ambulance arrived, you did not see that traffic. They had cleared off the roadway, really making it a fast entrance for this officer to get here immediately. We saw officers along the freeway here blocking traffic from getting on the freeway just to ensure that the officer could get here expeditiously and receive care immediately. He arrived here, again, at Memorial Hermann about 20 minutes ago. He or she went inside, is being treated right now. We have seen, again, a number of people show up here, including a whole bunch of police officers, huge police presence here. Again, and just like you said with the police chief, I know everyone is praying for him. We have not seen him here at this point in time. We have seen, again, a council member, some of the security detail of the mayor's office. But I know everybody is thinking about these officers today and certainly praying for them and that they have an immediate and safe recovery.
All right, Marla, thank you so much. And if you'll stand by, and if you get any more information or spot any more city officials, please let us know. We're also still waiting to see the police chief. We don't know which hospital he will go to first. But we want to go back to the scene as we continue to look at these live pictures from Sky Eye over the neighborhood. And this, again, is the 8700 block of Sterling Game, where everything began to happen at about 12:20. And we have seen heavily armed officers along with canine units going through this neighborhood looking for the suspect or more than one. At this point, we don't even know just how many they may be looking for. But clearly, they are leaving no stone unturned. And in the meantime, it looks as though that neighborhood is pretty much on lockdown. A lot of people inside their homes. But you can certainly see that huge police presence there parked all around that neighborhood looking now for a suspect.
And heavily armed as well. We saw that earlier with the canines walking around the backyard. And, wow, they're with, of course, their complete arsenal right there with them. Christine, why don't we go ahead and turn to you? Have you seen any other activity that, and while you're speaking, by the way, we have the picture divided just to give you a sense of what we're showing, and we have the aerial view of the search continuing in many backyards.
Well, Art, since we last talked, I would say probably 24 more officers have gone into the neighborhood. We've seen them going in. We also saw 2 crime scene units move in to the neighborhood, into that area where there's been the most activity by that home, where the police have really converged. But a lot of activity still as we see the officers moving in. We have not seen many people coming out of the neighborhood. I do see one car coming right now, but obviously a very volatile situation right now. As you can see, even the officers right here, heavily armed, all kinds of weaponry, and also the canines moving into the area. So they have completely circled this area and continue to search for, we believe, at least one suspect here at the scene.
Now, Christine, we understand that this all started as a result of a robbery gone bad. Now, that's unconfirmed at this point, but that's just the word that's been floating around. Have you heard anything regarding that?
We have not gotten confirmation of that, but that is the information that was reported. We do know that a public information officer from the police department is going to be talking with media right here where we are. This is right at the Valero gas station at the edge of the neighborhood. So we expect to get more clarification on exactly how this all started. But obviously a situation that got tense very quickly and has put a call out to, virtually almost every law enforcement officer in the city, it seems like, is here right now. An incredible display as they are working this scene.
Well, and as we are looking at these live Sky Eye pictures above the neighborhood, we see what looks like at least a couple of dozen police cars and units parked there. But I did see a couple of cars coming and going in the neighborhood. Are they allowing people who've got to go take care of business to come out, or are they checking every single car and person that comes through?
Melanie, it appears they are letting some people come in and out. Right now, I don't know if you can see our live picture. There's a female officer right now. Yeah. She was just talking with this person coming out. So they are talking with people as they go in and out. Obviously, a lot of people may have come out of their homes and they see this and they have no idea what's going on. So it looks like they are checking people, but they are letting some people move in and out. But it appears for the most part they don't want many people going into the neighborhood. They're just trying to check everyone.
Christine, we hate to break in, but we need to get back over to Ben Taub and to Maya Shea there. If you'll stand by, we'll come back to you in just a moment. But Maya Shea has new details from Ben Taub Hospital. Maya?
I wanted to update people on information I have obtained from a high-ranking member of the Houston Police Department. The source telling me what actually took place. What they say happened was that the police officers in this case actually came upon two burglary suspects. What this source tells me is that these two burglary suspects fired upon the police officers, hitting both of them. One of the suspects, we are told by this high-ranking source, is deceased. The other is the one that investigators and police officers are actively searching for right now. As for the two officers who are injured, according to this very high-ranking source within the Houston Police Department, he is telling me that one of the officers at Ben Taub Hospital is in stable condition, that he was awake and speaking with those people who are treating him. The other officer at Memorial Hermann is more seriously injured, so that he is also being treated at Memorial Hermann. We expect the police chief to be here shortly to address any of these situations on the record for all of us, specifically about the injuries. But this is what we can tell you right now, that both of these officers apparently were involved in this. This is a burglary attempt, and that the two suspects opened fire on these two officers. The officers were hit. The one here is in stable condition. The officer in Memorial Hermann hurt a little more seriously, but also still being treated right now. As for what will happen at this point on, we are told the police chief will be here relatively soon. Of course, this is still a developing situation. Again, all of this information coming from some veteran police officers who spoke to me, very high-ranking, and they are aware of the situation. So that is the latest of what actually unfolded today that led to this situation right now. We, of course, here are at Ben Taub Hospital. We are told by the mayor's staff that Mayor Sylvester Turner currently is at Memorial Hermann Hospital. We know in situations like this that eventually the mayor and all other elected officials will make it to both hospitals. They will address and talk with police officers and their family members to make sure all their needs are met. But that is the latest information, guys, I have from you, for you here from Ben Taub.
Okay, yeah. Maya, getting back to some of that. Now, I know we've heard some of this information sort of floating around, but from what you
Correct.
indicate, it sounds like you're confirming what has been floating around, that indeed it was a robbery and that two officers were shot. Now, did these officers happen to be there? Was there a 911 call earlier that from a home that indicated for them to arrive, or did they just stumble upon a robbery?
I personally do not know specifics as for whether or not they, how they got to that location. That was not specifically relayed to me. So I want to be careful about our reporting since they're from a high-ranking source within the Houston Police Department to only report what I know. And this is what we can tell you right now. You can see behind me there's some more police activity as officers and members of the union are coming back and forth. We do know specifically that the officer here is in pretty good shape, that he was stable and talking to people who were treating him when he was brought in. So that is certainly good news. We are told that the officer at Memorial Hermann was a little more seriously hurt, but he is also being treated. We are told that they are actively searching for one suspect at least, and that one other suspect is deceased in this situation. Of course, this is a developing situation, and I'm telling you specifically what I know, that I've been able to confirm with people who are trusted sources in the Houston Police Department who have been there for a long time.
And is that the mayor that we see?
Was that the mayor
that we saw, or was that someone else walking?
Go ahead and just push in there if you could.
That was not
him.
That was not the mayor. Usually the mayor comes in two
dark
colored vehicles, and we have been told
it was not. It was not
at the other hospital.
Thank you so much. We just saw his back there for a moment and thought it might have been the mayor walking in.
Thank you, Maya. We appreciate that reporting out of there. And good information regarding the officers. The Ben Taub, we understand from the reporting from Maya, that officer not as seriously injured as the officer at Memorial Hermann.
Which may explain the decision perhaps for many people to go first to Memorial Hermann, to the more seriously injured officer, and then to Ben Taub. We want to go back to the neighborhood now with more information fleshed out there by Maya Shea and her resources. Elisa Rivas is also there. And Elisa, what can you tell us about what's going on as they continue to search that neighborhood?
Right, as Christine Dobbin was telling you earlier, an area still very much on lockdown out here. I'm going to go ahead and give you just a full 180 view right now of what's going on. On the far side, you have the service road, Oglethorpe right here at the belt. and they are holding up cars when they need to allow law enforcement. You can see this dark officer's car that's coming in right now unmarked. They're allowing those law enforcement officers to move into the neighborhood. And right now we have a lot of people that are out here, and they've basically said, hey, you know what, we were supposed to come into this neighborhood, or I have a friend that's inside. And basically every time I talk to somebody, they say, my friend inside, they went out, they saw a police officer, they were told to go back in, and so they're just sitting tight inside their neighborhoods right now. Other people just kind of decided to wait on the perimeter to see if maybe they can get inside. They perhaps had a delivery or something like that. You know, if we walk right over here, let's see, we'll try and talk to somebody, because this is an area where a lot of people, they come in and out for gasoline. Hey, Miss Rogers, we talked with her earlier. And you were coming in here to make a delivery, but you had what kind of communication with the woman you were delivering to?
I don't have anything now. Every time we call to try to get communications back there, it goes straight to voicemail. So I don't know if it's because everybody is calling or on the lines or what have you. So,
and what was she telling you earlier?
What she said when she came, she heard shots. She heard shots being fired, and when she came out the house, she saw a whole bunch of law officers going down the street, and they directed her to go back into the house.
Elisa,
they wasn't giving
Elisa, if you can go ahead and stand by real quick, Elisa, we're going to go ahead and go to someone else.
Elisa, I don't know if you can hear us, but
yeah,
we need to break in for a moment.
We're going to break away for just real quick. There you see the mayor, Sylvester Turner. He is clearly talking on the phone at this point. He is with his entourage. He just arrived at Bentop Hospital. Presumably as well, he will get to Memorial Hermann, no doubt. He is there, of course, and will be meeting with the chief. This is always protocol for any type of officer-involved shooting. The mayor will step forward and, of course, make his presence known and make sure that the city is certainly pulling behind and praying for the officers.
Yeah, we know that he was going to make a stop at Memorial Hermann and at Bentop Hospital. You can certainly see from the expression on his face that this is a very serious matter, and he is no doubt being updated every moment by what is happening right now. As we've been telling you, officers still out in that neighborhood searching for the second suspect who may have been part of the two that opened fire on those officers. We know one burglary suspect has been killed. But we continue to watch. It looks as though we may have lost our picture there for some.
There's a vehicle in front of
us. But as we can see, the mayor standing there talking. We believe he is at Bentop. This may actually be at Memorial Hermann. He is at Memorial Hermann, so he did go there first. As we heard from Maya Shea, and as she said, her high-placed sources, they indicated that the officer taken to Memorial Hermann was more seriously injured. The officer taken to Bentop was listed in stable condition, was awake and talking with paramedics as he was transported. So we know that he is going to make the decision to go and see the more seriously injured officer first.
And we also have information from Chief Acevedo as well. He is asking for individuals to shelter in place in that area. That is around the 8700 block of Sterling Game, that area which you see on your right there. Here is the chief's tweet. In fact, one suspect is outstanding, so still on the loose. Please shelter in place if you're residing in the area and avoid the area if you don't live in that area, is what he's saying. So strong words from the chief there. Stay out of that area. Of course, if you're not from that area, and if you do live there, make sure that you just stay in your house. Now, here on the left, we're seeing the Memorial Hermann, and the mayor is there and clearly talking outside on the phone at this point.
And we just saw another ambulance pull in, no doubt, because this continues to be a very busy area. But we do want to, once again, just sort of remind you of where this all began. It started about 12:20 out in southwest Houston. This is a neighborhood, Glenshire is what it's being identified as. It's inside the Beltway, south of West Belford. And reports of shots were fired. And now we are learning from Maya Shea's sources that what happened was there were two officers who were responding to a burglary call, came in basically face-to-face with the burglary suspects. There was a shooting, and the two officers were hit. The one suspect was killed and is, in fact, deceased there on the ground. The other suspect is on the loose, and that's why right now there is a full-on manhunt out in that neighborhood to try to find him. Marla Carter is standing by at Memorial Hermann, where the mayor just went, and she's got new information. We understand the chief is also headed that way.
Yes, that's what we're hearing. We're hearing that the chief is headed this way to give an update, and there you can see the mayor. He's kind of walking in. He's making his way in. He has been talking on the cell phone, just arrived here a short time ago. We mentioned we saw his security detail arrive. Now the mayor's arriving. We've also seen City Councilor Jerry Davis here, along with a police chaplain arrive, and a number of police officers, all here, of course, in support of that officer. Very devastating situation this morning. No word at this point on time on the extent of that officer's injuries. We did just briefly talk to a police department spokesperson. He said that he was going to give us a media briefing as soon as he can, but still a lot of questions on exactly what happened, the injuries that this officer sustained. And again, I know a lot of people are praying, and you did mention a number of times on that tweet that the police chief sent out this afternoon, saying that, of course, they are sending prayers to these officers, and you can definitely tell this is a very somber scene here this afternoon. Very quiet, very somber, and a huge police presence, as many people are keeping their thoughts and prayers with that police officer, both police officers this afternoon. We're really waiting to learn additional information, but we do know that the mayor is here, and it looks like, did he make his way inside yet, John? Looks like
obscured by that ambulance.
Okay, we can't. Okay.
He's still out there.
Okay, so he's still outside.
Inside and he's come out.
Okay, so he has been inside already and come back outside. But again, we do know that, but the police chief is on his way here, and we are also again expecting to get an update from the actual police spokesperson very shortly.
Marla, have you heard at all whether that officer at that location at Memorial Hermann was any more seriously injured than the officer at Ben Taub? And presumably that would probably be the case if the mayor is first visiting that location prior to his visit to Ben Taub.
You know, we have not heard either way. I know that Maya's source was saying that this officer here at Memorial Hermann, they do believe that he or she has more severe injuries. We have not heard that, but yes, the mayor is here. We're told the police chief's coming here, and this is also where the police spokesperson is as well. So
we're going to break in just briefly here, Marla, just to let our viewers know the mayor has now gotten to Ben Taub. We saw him there shaking hands with another number of police officers and firefighters as well, who are standing outside the emergency room waiting to hear how their colleague is doing at this point. So he has made that trip from next door at Memorial Hermann over to Ben Taub Hospital to visit with the second officer, which we've been told was not as seriously injured, was still awake and talking. In fact, let's go directly to Maya Shea, who brought us that information just a few moments ago. Maya, have you learned anything else? Looks as though we don't have a working microphone right this second.
Hear.
Was being
There she
treated
is.
here.
Why don't we go ahead and listen? Go ahead, Maya.
Maya,
We hear
if you'll
you now.
start over for us.
Yes, I wanted to let you guys know that from my sourcing telling me that the officer who is here, who was shot multiple times in the leg area. That is from a well-placed source. Well, we can also tell you that I personally saw with my own eyes is that an officer removing what looked like a police boot, placing it in an evidence bag and putting it inside one of the patrol cars here for safekeeping. We saw the mayor just walk in with his staff. We understand he will be talking to the officer if he's in any shape to communicate with that staff member. And also, we understand perhaps some family members of this particular officer may be making their way here to see how the officer is doing. That's what we're keeping an eye out for right now, is any potential family members who may be on their way here. In the meantime, we are also told by my sources that the officer who is injured, who is at Memorial Hermann, is doing a little bit better than some initial reports. So that's certainly good news. And as far as the officer here, again, we understand he is doing better, but apparently shot more than once, hit in the lower extremities in the leg area. And we personally did see, again, a boot actually being removed, a police boot, by another officer placed in the patrol car for safekeeping. Mayor Sylvester Turner arriving here just a few minutes ago, which you were able to see live right here on ABC 13. No doubt he will have some comments after he visits with the investigators, the injured officers, any families, and addressing any of their concerns. That is top priority at this point. And then we are certain that eventually he will come and talk to the media and give us the latest information. But that is what I have for you on the ground here. We're keeping an eye out, as I said, again, on potential family members who who may be on their way, and we'll keep you updated should anything else occur.
Now,
Very
Maya,
good.
at this point, do you have you seen the police chief or any of the other city council members? We did hear Council Member Jerry Davis was at Memorial Hermann shortly ago.
Yeah, we have not seen any of the other council members at this point, but we anticipate that usually they sort of make their way as news kind of get out into their communities, and they can get away from whatever it is, whatever meetings and other things they may be doing. They eventually all sort of gather here. They're just not here yet. We know the mayor is here. I can see right now there's still some members of the police union who are here, as well as senior members of the police force who are here. A lot of them are here not specifically to do anything other than being a source of comfort, presence, strength, reassurance for other officers who may not have dealt with situations like this in the past. Unfortunately, we have seen officer-involved shootings happen on a similar regular basis in our community, and every time that happens, the Houston Police Department and their surrounding family members really get together, are very cohesive to support those who are impacted immediately by what happened, and that's certainly what we're seeing here today. As for the details of that specific investigation, we understand, as has been confirmed by the police chief via Twitter, as well as our own reporting, that they are still looking for one additional suspect, but one suspect is deceased and 2 officers injured, both recovering and being treated right now at some of the best medical care they can get in the world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Maya. We appreciate that reporting out of there. Terrific sources there to bring us that information. As you continue to dig for more information, we are looking at a live picture still of that area in southwest Houston. This is just inside that beltway, and we've been looking at just extraordinary pictures of a massive police presence as well as SWAT presence continuing to just cordon off this neighborhood, checking every area, every backyard, no stone unturned here, every shed, searching desperately for that one suspect that remains open and free in this area. The other suspect is presumably dead. That's what at least we've been told. So let's go to Christine Dobbin. She is there on the scene in that area just inside or near that Sterling Game Street. Christine, any other additional information you've been able to get a hold of?
Well, Art, I can tell you that we've certainly seen the amount of police cars moving into the neighborhood slow down, the presence in the center of that neighborhood right now, as the threat of that additional suspect, the suspect at large, still being in this neighborhood, very real. And most of the officers have sort of gone into the center to try and locate him. We also have seen crime scene units move in. We have learned that the one suspect was killed, and he is inside there. So we know that those crime scene units are likely heading to the area where his body is. We have been watching some of the people in the neighborhood, and when we first arrived here, I was telling you about a couple. They were just standing in their garage with the door open. We know that the police chief issued a shelter in place, so it looks like they may have gotten that message. I think initially a lot of people did not know what was going on, but their garage door is closed. It looks like they have taken shelter, which is a very good idea because it's still a very volatile situation, as a lot of officers canvassing the neighborhood and trying to rule out any place that suspect might not be so they can actually zero in and find him. We've also seen a spokesperson for the police department arrive on scene, and we understand he will be briefing us on the situation here and what exactly officers are doing inside here as soon as he can. Art?
All right, and we're looking right now at a map here, the area that has been cordoned off, that shelter in place, which is bordered on one side by the tollway, Sam Houston Tollway, and really spans out several blocks there. So we are aware of the fact that many of the people who live in that neighborhood, if they are not at work or someplace else, have been told to stay inside. And Christine, as we continue to look at the sky eye pictures here, live sky eye pictures of the neighborhood, as Art says, what is striking is just how much police activity is going on in this very small neighborhood. As far as you can see, there are police officers in uniform. We've seen them in SWAT gear, and almost every one of them armed as they continue to search that neighborhood. We can see some of the crime scene tape there. That is no doubt the area where the shooting actually happened. But this is really an officer's greatest fear as he or she leaves home every morning, is whether or not they will be able to return to their loved ones safe in the evening. And so immediately immediately if there is an officer involved shooting. Many of their men and women in uniform immediately know that fear for them and for their families, and they spring into action. But we continue to see officers in all kinds of uniforms. I understand there's more than one force there as well.
Several agencies are involved.
Yeah, not just Houston Police.
And it is, as you said, Melanie, it's just so frightening. Anytime there is a man or a woman in blue injured, that response is just extraordinary. It's just an extent of compassion and love and concern, which they immediately have, because this is a great brotherhood here and a sisterhood that exists within the police department. Not only that, within all armed forces, all firefighters as well get involved, and you see the line of respect that they give these individuals. And again, we have 2 officers injured in a shooting that occurred about just over an hour ago. And we've been watching this unfold for the past hour and a half now. And sadly, they are still looking for one of those suspects still on the loose. The other suspect has been killed. You see a massive police presence right here in this southwest Houston area, just inside that beltway, and on the east side of the loop as well. So, or the beltway, that is, and inside the loop is what I'm saying.
And that's really kind of ground zero. That apparently is the area where the shooting happened. Elisa Rivas is also in that area, and she spoke just a few moments ago to a homeowner who heard some of the shots initially. Elisa, have you got some new information for us?
Right, I've been going around just talking with the people that are hanging around in this area. This is the entrance to the neighborhood right now, and you can see no traffic in, no traffic out, with the exception of what's allowed by law enforcement. And when I talked to people, talked with one gentleman, and he said that an HPD officer stopped him, checked the back of his Suburban, basically not letting him get any farther without knowing, as he had been in and out, exactly what was going on and what was in that gentleman's car. He wasn't offended at all. He knew that they needed to do their job. Also just talking with people saying that they had an appointment with somebody inside the neighborhood, but texting back and forth, and now not really hearing a lot from them, as they've all been told to just stay quiet. And just inside here, inside this shop, the person behind the counter has everything turned on to the news, and people are coming in and out, getting that better view that we have been showing you from Sky Eye, because they are curious as well. But as you mentioned, still an active search, everything on lockdown, people not really being allowed in or out without the very careful supervision of HPD and other law enforcement in the area right now. But they do still feel like, yes, perhaps somebody here in the area that they can catch up with as they continue their search. We're going to go ahead and send it back to you. A lot of this area, people have just kind of drifted off, feeling like now at this point it could be a while before they're actually able to get back inside. So some just coming through for gas, others deciding to go ahead and move on for the moment because they're not sure at this point when this will all be brought to a close. Art, Melanie?
Well, Elisa, we continue to look on the right side of our screen at the neighborhood, and we see a lot of activity there. But I did want to ask you about the interview we had to break away from. You were speaking to one of the neighbors there. What did she say about hearing the gunshots?
So the woman that we were talking to, she was making a business delivery into the neighborhood. And when she got here, she could not get in. So her communication with the woman
we have to break.
that she was delivering to was that she had...
Elisa, we have to break away. They are beginning a news conference with the mayor.
Second, Mayor, just take us 30 seconds to get on the wire.
Appreciate you coming over.
Is the police chief inside yet, or is he still on his way? Thank you for coming over.
The police chief was at the scene. I suspect that he was heading to Herman, where I was coming from, and I'm going to return back to Herman right now to check on Officer Cortez to get the latest report. I started there first. He's in a more critical state, and his condition is critical. Officer Cortez at Herman. Officer Munoz here.
Hey, could you start? Just kind of tell us from the beginning, Mayor. What do you know, and what can you share with those?
About an hour or so ago, burglary was taking place in Southwest Houston, about 3 or 4 houses down from where Officer Cortez's family resides, and so obviously there had been another burglary prior to. And from all indications, they had gotten some guns in that first burglary, so they were armed. And as the Officer Cortez and Officer Munoz, the officers were approaching after the call had been made, and they were searching in the area. Subsequently, there was some gunfire exchange. I think from all indications, there were either 2 or 3 suspects. And again, all of this is very preliminary, okay? There were 2 or 3 suspects. One is now DOA. And at this moment, unless something has changed within the last 10, 15 minutes, 2 of this are still out. We're still looking for the other 2. My primary concern right now is for the condition of the 2 officers.
Can you recap that for us? Which officer is at Memorial, which one is here, and what you know about the condition?
Officer Munoz, and I guess maybe let me just not mention names because I think family.
Okay.
That's still approaching. One of the officers, of course, if they're here at Ben Top, his condition is not life-threatening. Okay, he does have a foot injury, but it's not life-threatening. The other officer is at Herman, and his condition is critical. His wife is present, but his condition is critical.
Were you able to speak to either officer, and if so, do you want to share?
I was able to speak to the officer here at Ben Top, and he's emotionally speaking. I mean, he's talking and communicating. With respect to the officer at Herman in the more critical state, I will say to you that he was able to visit very briefly with his wife, and they were able to exchange words. But his situation is critical, and there's a bullet that's still lodged, close to the spot.
Now, Mayor, you were saying that this particular burglary happened near one of the officers' homes.
Yes.
So was he off duty, on duty? This is a dispatch call? Or
on duty. And then a call was made that burglary was in progress, and then officers came and responded to the call. And the search was taking place. They were aware that the suspects were armed, and then subsequent to them looking for them, there was an exchange of gunfire, and these 2 officers were shot.
And you believe the suspects have burglarized a previous location and how they?
That is my understanding. Based on the preliminary report that I'm given, they had burglarized another place before, and had. Taken several guns, so they had several guns in their possession.
So are the identities of these suspects, the deceased and the 1 or 2 individuals they're looking to, do investigators know who they are?
I'm not in a position to say that. I can say to you that one of the suspects is DOA. Okay, one of the suspects is dead, and I think there are either 1 or 2 that are still on the run, and as you can imagine, there is a very vigorous search for that person or persons.
Can you tell us what's going on through your mind right now as the mayor of our city?
My number 1 concern is the safety and the health and well-being of these officers. That's number 1. Okay, so I've had a chance to go and to the hospital at Herman and kind of get an assessment. I've talked with his wife, and as you can imagine what state she is in. She's concerned about their children, and she's certainly concerned about her husband making it. So she has had an opportunity to visit with him and talk with him very briefly. What I would say to the people in the city of Houston: pray for him and that entire family. Pray for both officers, and for this for them to have a complete recovery, but certainly be praying for the officer that's in critical condition right now.
And then as far as that they have this particular officer.
Okay, 1 second.
I just want to ask, for this officer here, is he also married, and is his spouse here? That do you know of any?
I can't say whether. Yes, both of them are married, and his wife is on the way. Okay, so his wife has been notified. The officer here at Ben Top, his wife is on the way.
And I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Chief Acevedo, did you say he's at Memorial Herman?
He may. I know he was on the crime scene, and he may be at Herman right now as we speak. Okay.
Give a quick recap of everything you know, and we won't hold you long.
It was there were some suspects who had robbed a before robbing the last place where the shooting occurred, in the area that the shooting occurred, they had robbed another place, and they had taken several guns. They had several guns in their possession, okay? The police department got a call that a burglary was in progress. They were responding to that burglary. The people had already left the scene, but they were still in the immediate vicinity, okay? Police officers responded. They were looking for these suspects. And then at some point, there was gun firing, shooting occurred, and 2 police officers were hit, one multiple times, okay? And, okay, I'm sorry?
Do you know if that was happening in the street or was it inside an actual?
It was in the area. It could have been in like a shed or something in the area. It wasn't in the home that they had actually burglarized, but it was in the immediate vicinity. But multiple gunshot firing, and 2 officers were injured. One was shot multiple times. He's in critical condition at Herman, and he's getting the very best care. His wife was able to visit with him very briefly, talk with him very briefly, and now they are doing they're doing the test examination to work to stabilize his condition. But the situation, as of let's say 20 minutes ago, was still critical. Okay, the officer who's here at Ben Tom they're not life-threatening injuries. He was shot. It was a foot injury. And his wife has been notified, and she is on the way. So, and all of this, of course, occurred in Southwest Houston. So the investigation is still very much ongoing. Again, this is preliminary. I'm giving you preliminary information. As more information is obtained, if what I said, anything I said was not correct, we'll certainly make that available. But, let me just ask all Houstonians to be praying for these officers. Pray for the ones who have been injured. Pray for the ones who are out here responding every single day to the call. They're brothers and sisters, but at this point in time, they're all our brothers and sisters, and so let's pray for them. But we will find those who, the other suspects that are part of this whole incident. We will do our jobs. That I can't tell you that right now. Okay, this is really preliminary. I just wanted to kind of provide you with what I know at the time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
We're learning a great deal more information from the mayor there.
It's becoming more and more interesting, this story, isn't it?
Yeah,
just fascinating.
But a lot more information from him as he holds that impromptu press conference there right across from Ben Taub Hospital. What we've learned is that there was a burglary in Southwest Houston, one first, and these officers were responding to that first burglary. Apparently there were guns stolen the first time around, according to the mayor, and then a second burglary several houses down. As it turns out, it's also in the neighborhood he believes where one of the officers lived.
Right, where that first officer lives. He didn't want to give the name, but just a few houses down, he said 3 or 4 from down where that burglary first occurred, where they took all those weapons.
Yeah, so they were. There was apparently what it sounds like a real shootout there. Once they confronted those burglary suspects, he is now saying there may be possibly more than 2, maybe as many as 3 suspects. One we know to be dead, the other 2 still on the run. Right. But as the mayor says, his primary concern at this point is the officer who is in critical condition. The officer at Memorial Herman, whose wife has been there, had a chance to say a few words, but that officer, he says, is in critical condition. The officer at Ben Taub, not life-threatening injuries. We now know that it was a foot injury, as Maya indicated, lower extremities. But he says he's asking Houstonians, all Houstonians, to pray not only for these 2 officers, but really all of the police department at this point. A very, very, traumatic and a frightening situation for all of them whenever an officer is down. So we are at least learning a great deal more about not only the initial incident, but also the condition of those 2 officers. And he indicates the police chief may be out in this neighborhood right now overseeing this particular operation before heading on to the hospitals.
Yeah, the mayor giving a pretty extensive report on the injuries of the officers. Somewhat surprising. He even used their names, or he began to. Then he mentioned that perhaps we shouldn't use their names. So we will not be using their names of the officers out of respect for their families at this point. But understand that 2 officers were shot in this burglary situation. Multiple gunshots fired here. It was a real shootout, and we don't know how many. Eventually we will learn how many shots were fired. But one hit several times, multiple times, he said. An officer at Memorial Hermann, multiple times. He is in serious, and he said, in fact, critical condition. That officer, and mentioned for Houstonians to simply pray for both officers, especially the officer who is in critical condition. But also mentioning that his wife was able to speak with the officer, or the officer spoke with with his wife just very briefly before he went into surgery. Now undergoing surgery, and we just pray for his well-being, and hopefully, as in the officers or in the mayor's words, hope that he makes it and pray that he makes it.
Yeah, in fact, he indicated that the severity of that injury, there is a bullet lodged very close to his spine, which is why he is in critical condition. As we continue to watch live pictures, on the right side of your screen, that is the neighborhood, and you can see just a few police units there, but believe me, they are spread throughout that neighborhood, which remains on lockdown right now, the Glenshire neighborhood, while they search that area.
This video is, or this live picture, coming from inside that neighborhood, the other one coming from the exterior of that neighborhood. The Glenshire neighborhood, it is just, I mean, packed with a massive presence of police officers. You can see some neighbors right there on the sidewalk as well. But we understand that 1 suspect, perhaps even 2, as the mayor indicated, are still on the loose in this area. They have the K-9s out there, several of them. They have SWAT team members. They have HPD. They have other officers out there as well, other agencies, all searching for these 1 or 2 suspects which remain out there.
And you can see right now playing out live a scene we've also seen a number of times. Anybody trying to drive in or out of that neighborhood, regardless of whether or not they live there, has been stopped. They have been searched. And officers are indicating to them that once you get to your house or get to your destination, you need to stay inside. And really, this entire neighborhood is on lockdown. You even see several people there being walked by police, presumably to their homes or wherever it is they are going. We also see on the left-hand side, this is our live picture from Ben Taub Hospital. And we do know, as we've heard from the mayor, that the officer there is not in life-threatening condition. He has an injury to his foot at this point, we're being told. And he was able to talk not only all the way there in the ambulance to the paramedics, but he was able to visit with the mayor and with some of his colleagues while he is there in the hospital.
All right, let's get to Marla Carter. She is at the hospital. She has been at Ben Taub all morning long. What have you been able to, or Memorial Hermann rather, my apologies, Marla, but go ahead. What can you update us on at this point?
Yes, well, right now, Art, I'm going to step out of the way so you can take a look. We are waiting to hear from the police chief. A police spokesperson said the police chief will give us a briefing on exactly what happened any minute now, so we are waiting for his arrival. We do see the mayor has just arrived. I know we just heard from him at Ben Taub, and he indicated that he's coming back to Memorial Hermann, and he has arrived again at Memorial Hermann. Of course, we do know from his news conference that he indicated that the officer that was shot and is being treated here at Memorial Hermann is in critical condition right now. So he is here. We've also seen a chaplain arrive here. We also saw what appears to be a loved one, a family member, very devastated, of course, when that ambulance arrived here. And also saw a city council member, Jerry Davis, was here as well. And those are some of the people that we have seen arrive specifically to Memorial Hermann. And again, we are waiting to hear from the police chief to get an update on this situation, on their conditions, and more details from him on what happened. And again, we've learned a lot from just hearing what the mayor had to say about that burglary situation, but certainly a very sad and somber situation. Heavy police presence has been here all afternoon, seen a lot of officers going in and out, really monitoring the area. And now the person you're looking at right now is John Cannon. He's a police department spokesperson. So we'll see if he is going to give us an update here shortly. As soon as he does, of course, we will bring that to you live. And he is the one who indicated that we were expecting to hear from the chief. And it sounds like the chief may have been out at the scene. So I'm not sure if he's on his way here right now or if he is here. So as soon as we do get an update, of course. Oh, he looks like he is coming over here.
Yeah, it does look like John is headed your way.
Okay,
I'm going to place the microphone over here for you guys.
Go ahead and do that, and we'll stand by and watch as he approaches. He may have something to say of, well,
Looks
Perhaps
like he may
not.
be waving us off. We'll
He's
see in
gonna
just
be,
a second here.
But the chief, no doubt, and what's been good about the chief always is that he always has come out and been speaking to the media nearly immediately. No doubt he's going to come out. The mayor as well, so gracious and being able to break away for just a few moments and update us, and really coming out to ask the city to pray for the officers. Always showing that concern and that love. You have a tremendous unity that exists among the police department, the fire department, all agencies. When something like this happens, that's what's extraordinary, Mel, is that all the agencies get involved and wanting to help.
Well, they work closely together every single day, and when one of them is in trouble, obviously all of them are very concerned. The mayor saying his #1 concern is the safety, health, and well-being of these officers, and as you indicated, not just the 2 officers that have been injured, but the entire force. He says he realizes just what a trauma this is for them when one of their brothers or sisters in blue goes down for any reason.
And an important note to indicate as well, something interesting, the Houston OEM office, that's the Office of Emergency Management in Houston, has sent out phone alerts, in fact, to all of the individuals in that area. But let's go ahead and go to the news conference.
John Cannon is standing by. Oh, no, this is on the scene.
This is at the scene, so this is not John. Let's go ahead and listen in to see if we can hear.
OEM has already sent out something, shelter in place, so you guys just hang tight here. When I'm able to get something, I will come back out and let you know. But I'm getting frustrated too. I'm trying to find out what's going on. Come out and let you guys know.
Okay, no word from the police department yet. He's simply saying, listen, as soon as I find out, we'll go ahead and get a little bit more. But Christine, perhaps you can hear us. Clearly, the information there was, we're hoping to get more information, and once we do, we're going to go in and inform you, right?
Right, that was one of the spokespersons for the police department. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Yes.
Okay, that was one of the spokespersons for the police department, and he said, you know, he doesn't carry a gun, so he said he's only allowed to go just a little bit beyond the corner there and get information. The command center there, and they're kind of keeping him back, but he said this is a very hot, potentially dangerous scene, so right now it's still very active, but they are hoping to get some more information very soon. But we know lots of officers still back in that neighborhood, and as we were mentioning earlier, the Office of Emergency Management actually sent out an alert to about 1,800 homes in this area, in the Glenshire neighborhood and general area, warning folks if they are at home to shelter in place because of this situation, and then also if they are perhaps trying to come home, it would be best to stay out of this area and not even go in there, because again, lots of armed officers and a potentially dangerous situation could unfold if they indeed find that suspect that they're looking for.
Did he indicate whether or not they're looking for 1 or 2 suspects, or does he even know at this point?
Christine, can you hear us?
We may have lost Christine.
Yeah, we may have lost her.
Well, we will get back to her just as soon as she's able to provide us with a little bit more information. But you did see some of the activity behind her. Yeah.
And the interesting point of whether there are 1 or 2 suspects, as the mayor indicated as well. So.
And you're looking there on the right side of your screen. That is a live picture of the area that they continue to search. And as we say, you can see a handful of police vehicles here, but when we've seen this same shot from the sky, you can see dozens, quite literally, of police vehicles of all sorts, SWAT cars, as well as canine units, all in this area. Right now, they are literally going door to door trying to find this 1 or 2 suspects. At this point, we don't even know how many.
And in an effort to keep residents out of that area, and as well them not moving around that neighborhood, the Houston OEM office sending out all of the emergency alerts to phone numbers in that area around that Sterling Game Drive area, all the way south to the Beltway. That is the Sam Houston 8 Beltway, and as well over to 59. So you have that entire area sort of cordoned off, blocked in every direction. So if you live in this area, just stay out. You're not going to be able to get back in, presumably, until much later. But those phone alerts going out to individuals in that area to just shelter in place is the call. In other words, just stay put, watch the news, and be informed that way.
Yeah, the world that we live in now, you're tweeted by the mayor or by the police chief. You get alerts, either text or phone alerts on your phone. So it's a good lesson for when they ask you to register for some kind of security system. This is the best way to reach a lot of people quickly. We're going to go back to Elisa Rivas, who was also out in this neighborhood. I believe she's in a different location from Christine Dobbin. Well, we also lost Elisa as we continue to look at the map. And this really gives you a good sense of where this is all happening. It's on Sterling Game Drive is where this all began. But it is right there inside Sam Houston Tollway, just inside, south of West Belford there. So you can begin to see exactly where that area is, 59, not that far away as well.
Not sure if traffic's been affected in this area, but we'll get a word on that briefly. We know that that entire neighborhood has been cordoned off, so once we get an idea as to whether traffic has been affected as well, we'll bring you more. But Elisa Rivas now standing by. We do have connection with her. Elisa, anything else you can bring us regarding, I guess, the difficulty getting in and out of that area?
Well, absolutely. When you're talking about the area going northbound on the feeder road, this particular exit right around Airport, people want to avoid it altogether. There are other ways to get around Southwest Houston and to get into this spot. You can use 59. You can use another exit on either side of that, because right now both sides of the feeder are incredibly busy and it's just clogged with traffic. This neighborhood is a spot where people sometimes use to get through to other thoroughfares. So people come off the road thinking they can do that. So traffic is very clogged here right now because so much of the area is shut down. We can't tell you at this spot that we're here right now. Some people will run up and just start shooting on their phone, and I do mean shooting on a cell phone, excuse me. They're wanting to know what's going on. They're very curious. They have the news on inside the gas station because people still, even though we've been on the air for some time, are a little bit disoriented by all of the police presence, by all of the law enforcement in the area. And as our public information officer from HPD was telling us, even he is having to walk and hoof it inside over to the command center so that he can get information and come back out to us with what might be appropriate for people to know at this hour. But right now it's still that shelter in place, still nobody in, nobody out unless you've been thoroughly checked over by the Houston Police Department. So people stopping in for gas, even though it's not a very convenient spot, and just more curious than anything else. I haven't talked with a lot of people here in the last hour that live in the area and are trying to get in. I think it's really filtering out from people in the neighborhood to friends that might be coming to visit, other family members that they really can't get in right now, but still an incredibly busy spot because this is a part of Houston that's just heavily trafficked as we head into the rush hour, Art.
Well, and you presume that a lot of people are starting to look at the clock because it's going to be time for the end of school very soon, people coming home from work. And while this may have been okay when so many people were out of their homes earlier today, I'm sure they're worried about whether or not they're going to be able to get back, make dinner, and get on with the normalcy of their day. Elisa, as we are sitting here looking at another shot here on the right side of our screen, where Christine Dobbin is, as a matter of fact, we see lots of police units, but we also see not only HPD, but I just saw Constable Precinct 5. Have you seen a lot of other agencies coming in and out as well?
Right. I've seen Bike Patrol. I've seen, like you said, the constable's office out here. We see a lot of unmarked units. As we were even heading to this scene, we saw K9 units that were marked and headed this direction. So they are definitely pouring resources onto this area to bring this to a safe close for everyone. But as we mentioned, still that active search going on. And right now, everything closed off. But definitely the sheriff's department is even out here, even though this is HPD jurisdiction. You really get a sense that it's all hands on deck as you see all of the different marked vehicles in this area. So right now, we're just going to go up here and see. People have just kind of shown up. They're just curious. They're looking. They're taking pictures, seeing what's going on. You know, 90% of the people that I've walked up to in the last hour have said, no, I don't really know what's going on out here, but I'm awfully curious because they've never quite seen a display of this kind of law enforcement force before. So they definitely get the picture that something's going on and are curious about what that might be. But right now, this is just traditionally a very busy gas station and traffic is not getting in or out of this area and this neighborhood.
All right. We
Thank
appreciate
you, Elisa.
that.
We appreciate it. We've been looking, as you've been talking as well, at the pictures kind of around you. Why don't we go ahead and get to the other picture regarding Christine Dobbin as we prepare to toss to her. We see the deputies around. We see the Houston Police Department. We see the SWAT members as well. Incredible force, and all for trying to search for these two individuals, which there is still a diligent search going on.
There certainly is, and it's all going on just behind me. And earlier we saw so many law enforcement officers go right down this street. And we know why this specific street was so busy, because the staging area for law enforcement is just right around the corner. So anyone who is not armed, they really don't want to go beyond that point because it certainly could be very dangerous. I see there is an ambulance going by right now. It may be unrelated to this, but we've certainly seen a lot of sirens, lights and sirens today. We also saw several Houston Fire Department vehicles go in. That ambulance is actually going into the scene here. But they have just turned off their lights and sirens. But we know that the staging area just around the corner, and we talked with a spokesperson for HPD, and they said that still a very active situation here. Police and K-9 units, SWAT officers, all in the center of the neighborhood, still searching for the suspect or suspects. And obviously they still believe that they possibly could be here. Otherwise this would not be so locked down. But they're going to continue to go home by home and surround the area until they are completely sure that no one is in the area. But of course they're hoping that they can locate that one or both of the suspects that may still be at large here in the neighborhood. And we have seen people coming from the neighborhood going out, and they are still sort of talking with people, letting them know what's going on and checking their license. We've seen several unmarked vehicles go in, but as I was watching what was happening, many of them, it looks like, were probably police officers off duty, and they got the call as to what was going on. It looks like they were probably arriving in their personal vehicle, and then I would see them flash their badge, and then they would go into the scene. So even some officers off duty, it looks like, are responding here to the scene.
All right. Well, Christine Dubbin, we appreciate it as we continue to see officers there. I did, interestingly enough, though, see a woman with a young child behind Christine. It looked like she was Facebooking Live or something like that. So obviously they are allowing at least a few people in the neighborhood to step outside of their homes. We've seen a tweet from the mayor saying that he and the police chief will be holding a press conference in just a few moments, and we will certainly be taking that live in just a few moments. We believe at Memorial Hermann Hospital. They've really been traversing between. Let's go, in fact, to Memorial Hermann right this minute. Here they go.
There you clearly see the mayor walking out, and as well the chief. We were waiting for both of them to speak. Chief Acevedo is right there on the right-hand side, the mayor, of course, on the left. We heard from the mayor earlier. Let's go ahead and listen in, and he's going to likely introduce the chief.
Some brief comments, and I know you're interested. And certainly we have there were two officers that were shot earlier today. One is here at Hermann in critical condition, and he's getting the very best care available. The other officer is at Bentop, and he's in stable condition. And of course, he is getting the very best care available. I'm going to allow Chief Acevedo to make some comments, as well as Dr. Hurst. But what I want to say is that I want to ask all of Houston and people in the region to pray for both of these officers and their families. As usual, they get up every day, they go on their shift. They don't know what's going to happen during the course of their shifts, and they dutifully serve their city. So their family members, have been notified. Some of their family members are with them. Some are out of town. But the good news is that they're getting the very best care available. And let me have Chief Acevedo to talk about the specific details of what led to this incident.
As we wait for Chief Acevedo to go ahead and take the stand there and speak, I think he's presumably waiting for that chopper overhead as well to leave.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of the medical center, and Life Flight lands on the top of Memorial Hermann every day.
Right.
So they may have to just give it.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah. First of all, I want to thank Mayor Turner, Councilmember Green, for being out here, and Mayor, thanks for being on top of this. And I want to thank everyone out in the community that's been praying for our officers. I want to give a brief overview of what happened this afternoon, where we're at and where we're headed. But first and foremost, I want to advise the residents in the 8800 block area of Sterling Game that please shelter in place. Again, this is an active scene where we're still looking for an additional suspect. The suspect is just described as a male, adult Hispanic, dressed in all dark clothing with a blue bandana. That's all we have, but we have a lot of search teams out there. It's important to shelter in place. If you hear anything in the backyard, If you start having your dogs barked for unknown reasons, and you look out the window and see any police officers, please call 911 and report that behavior to us. Also, if you don't need to be in the area, please avoid the area. This morning at 11:08 a.m., we received a call of burglary in process with the 8800 block of Sterling Lane. At about 11:20 a.m., while en route, and before the officers that were en route arrived, another officers in the unit were actually flagged down by neighbors in the neighborhood and advised of a secondary burglary in the area. Officers did set up a perimeter, asked for air support and for canine, and both air support and canine arrived shortly thereafter, and an active search began. Shortly after 11:20 a.m., our tactical unit from that part of the city arrived on scene in the 8700 block of Sterling Game. Tactical officers were advised that at the back of a residence at the 8700 block of that location, Sterling Game, there was a storage shed where a door was ajar, and the resident wisely advised us that that was suspicious. Two of our officers actually jumped the fence and went into that backyard to clear that storage lot or storage shed when a male Hispanic suspect opened the door, came out, and opened fire on our officers. Officers were able to return gunfire. The suspect is a Hispanic male adult, unknown age, unknown identity. He was pronounced dead at the scene by responding paramedics from the Houston Fire Department. Our officers that have been shot, the mayor previously identified as well, but again, it's Ronnie Cortez. He's a 24-year vet of the police department who was shot multiple times and is obviously in critical condition, and we'll have the doc talk about that in a minute. The second officer that has been shot and struck by gunfire is Officer Jose Munoz, who's a 10-year vet. We are we have notified the family. Family members are here. We're also in the process of bringing family members from, especially for a critical officer, from one child that's out of state in college. We're in the process of bringing her in. The investigation will be ongoing. It'll be a joint investigation between the Houston Police Department, Homicide Division, Special Investigations Division, in terms of the officer-involved shooting, and we will also have the District Attorney's Office, Harris County District Attorney's Office involved, and as well as our Internal Affairs Division. The other thing that I want to put out to this community is just a word of thanks to the hospital. Both hospitals have done a phenomenal job in treating our officers, and obviously our Houston Fire Department colleagues. And Mayor, I want to thank you for Chief Pena. He's just a wonderful human being, and he's been on the phone helping us out as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to the doc, who will give a briefing on conditions and medical treatment, and then we'll open up to any questions.
Si nos puede decir en español, ¿está la situación ya abierta?
Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to talk for just a minute while he's speaking Spanish. He's giving the Spanish interpretation here for the Spanish media in town. But there you heard a lot of detail there about what took place. The officers were actually in that neighborhood. They were called to the scene, but other officers were flagged down. They got to the area faster. They jumped the fence because of suspicion of a shed door, which was open, and that's when the suspect, one of them, came out shooting. And we're going to listen into the chief in just a minute as he answers questions or turns to the doctor. He's now just speaking in Spanish. But then that's the dramatic part of this story, is that man suspect came out shooting, guns blazing. The officer shot back and they killed him. The other suspect got away.
Yeah, and at this point we do know that officer was critically wounded. One officer was critically wounded. The other, at this point we have learned, was shot in the lower extremities, apparently in the foot. What we do also know now is their names and how long they've been with the force. Ronnie Cortez, 24-year vet. He is the officer in critical condition at Memorial Hermann, and Jose Munoz, who's been with the force for 10 years, and he is in, at this point, stable condition, and even from leaving the scene was able to at least talk with paramedics in the ambulance there, so he is expected to do much better at this point, and we will hear hopefully fairly soon from the doctor. I want to just make sure that
He's still speaking
in Spanish. All right,
but
still
he'll turn it
answering
over
questions.
to the doctor in just a minute. But, you know, the doctor, which incredibly is going to come out and give the full report as to their condition, and we'll get a much better sense of Officer Cortez and his condition. Let's
the
go
doctor's
ahead and
coming up right
listen
now.
in now. Yeah.
And he once again has to wait on the helicopter. Interesting also that this started earlier than we thought. The initial call apparently came in at about 11:08.
Right.
So we're talking about nearly an hour of this playing out before the
So
first
my name's
shots.
Dr. David Peirce, and I'm the EMS Medical Director and Public Health Officer for the city. And as Mayor Turner and Chief Acevedo already told you, we've had 2 officers who've been shot. Both received multiple gunshot wounds. One, fortunately, they are not life-threatening. That patient is that officer is at Ben Taub and being taken care of. He will likely still need to be admitted to the hospital, but fortunately his injuries do not appear life-threatening. The second officer was brought here to Herman Hospital. He's in critical condition. After the shooting, officers on scene initiated care and called for the Houston Fire Department. EMTs, firefighters, and paramedics responded en route to the hospital with the critical patient. They were able to initiate advanced life support procedures and aid in his care. Called ahead to the hospital, and they immediately were taking care of him when he got here. His condition has improved some, but he is still listed in critical condition, and he obviously will be staying in the hospital. I can't give you any details as to where he was shot and the specifics because of patient confidentiality rules, but at this point, suffice it to say that his condition has improved from when he first got here, and he is critical, and we're hoping for the best, and your prayers would probably be very helpful. He is awake and talking, yes, and he's with his family. Not yet. That's part of the process.
Any questions to the chief or Dr. Peirce? Anybody have any questions to the chief or Dr. Peirce?
I have some questions for the
chief.
Can you talk a little bit about go over again what happened when they went into when they jumped into the yard? Was there what happened right there again?
Well, the 2 officers were advised by a woman, a resident at the location where the shooting occurred, that a storage shed behind her house, the door was ajar, and it appeared to be suspicious to her. The officers then got a ladder and gained entry into the backyard. When they get into the backyard and went to clear the shed, a suspect came out and opened fire on the officer, striking both officers multiple times.
Did you say Officer Cortez, is he a 24 or 27-year veteran?
24-year veteran for Officer Cortez, and Officer Munoz is a 10-year veteran.
So it's a total of 2 suspects. One is at large, one is dead.
One is dead at the scene, and one is at large in the area. And again, we're asking people in the area to please shelter in place, please avoid the area at all possible, and please, if you hear your dog barking or anything out of the ordinary, do not go outside. If you can get eyes on your yard, and just call 911 so we can come and search your premises.
What's your message to the guys who did this?
I'm sorry. We will assume that the second suspect that's at large is armed and dangerous. You should consider him armed and dangerous.
What's your message to the guys who did this?
Well, one's dead, so I don't think I have a message for him. But the one that's at large, if he's in a house hiding or somewhere, we're not leaving. We have hundreds of officers in the area. The sheriff called me right away, Mayor, and actually offered support, and he's responding. Some of his officers there, Harris County Sheriff, and we're not going to give up the search for a while. So I want to apologize to that neighborhood for the inconvenience that's going to go on for the next few hours. But someone that's willing to shoot and try to kill 2 fully uniformed officers in broad daylight after committing a burglary, which is a property crime, is someone that will not hesitate to kill a member of that community. And the other thing is that our TAC unit was actually in the area, which is our tactical street unit, because we had been experiencing a problem with burglaries in the area, and that's why we were able to have so many officers come in and start a very quick dragnet to try to catch these suspects.
I know it's real soon, but do you think that they could be part of that rash of burglaries that you've been experiencing in that area?
I think it'd be speculation, but when you decide to engage in deadly conduct over property crime, you must. My assumption would be that they're probably involved in a lot more than just burglaries, and they're just in burglaries, they're probably involved in a lot of burglaries.
Chief, do you have any sense of where this one guy may be?
We believe there's a high probability that he's still inside the dragnet. So el sospechoso que está allá, if you're, lo voy a decir en español, si está escondido en esa área, salga y bríndese a los oficiales porque no nos vamos a ir. No
He
vamos
is
a,
saying in
no
Spanish,
vamos a parar
if
de
you are
buscarlo,
there, he
y
seems to
para
be
su
almost directly
propia
speaking to the
seguridad,
suspect. If
bríndese.
you are
If
there
hear
in
from
this
these suspects,
area,
a lot
we
of times
will
these
find
suspects
you,
will
he
get on the cell
says.
phone, start calling loved ones. If you're getting a call from your
And
loved
there
one,
you go.
if
That
they
is the
still
shelter-in-place
outstanding,
area.
the best thing you can do is tell us, one, by calling 911, and two, tell your loved one to surrender because we're not leaving. Así que el sospechoso muchas veces llaman a sus familiares.
He's telling
cuando
the
estamos
individuals
buscando.
to go ahead and call us
Mi
immediately if
recomendación
you
es,
see
si
anything
su familiar está
as
involucrado en
well.
este crimen,
And really pretty strong words from the chief there.
Really
We are
is.
not leaving.
We are right. We're going to be hanging out here, and we will be here until we find you. He said hundreds of officers. He's speaking Spanish now for the Spanish media, but hundreds of officers, he says, in the area. He also congratulated and thanked the sheriff's deputies, the county, for reaching out. He said something interesting as well is that Officer Cortez is awake. He is talking. Certainly good news. Let's listen.
He has improved a bit.
We can start praying for both of our officers and their families, and I'm sure somebody loves this guy that unfortunately is dead. So pray for everyone that loves folks. And the bottom line is, there's people in the area right now that are probably listening to us. Please, 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 if you see something suspicious, please call 911 so we can come out and check it out. But more importantly, stay indoors, don't come out, and don't come to that area until we declare the area safe, until we finish our active search. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, you've been hearing from the Chief Acevedo, as well as the mayor. He spoke earlier, and as well the Dr. Pearce. Now, Dr. Pearce is not the doctor who has been administering to the care of the two officers which were wounded. Dr. Pearce is the AMS physicians director there for the city of Houston. But interesting comments from Chief Acevedo, simply saying stay in your homes and actually apologizing to the neighborhood. We're sorry we've invaded this area, but we will stay here. And this person who has shot in broad daylight two uniformed officers will not hesitate to shoot someone from your own family.
Yeah, so the presumption, as he says, is that this person is armed and extremely dangerous, and urging people to stay inside. And if they see or hear anything suspicious at all, it does not matter to call 911. It's better to be safe than sorry in this point. And we really do hear a very dramatic scene unfolding there. We're learning a lot more than we knew before. Officers jumping over the fence, going to they think, clear this shed where the door is open. The homeowner there saying, yes, that looks suspicious. And instead, these two men come out, guns blazing.
Right.
And they are able to kill one suspect. The other suspect gets away from the scene. But really unfolding very quickly and in an extremely dangerous way. We also know a little bit more about the suspects. Both Hispanic males. The one that is still on the loose was last seen wearing all black clothing and a blue bandana. And so they are urging people, if you see anyone who looks suspicious, to let them know.
Interesting that how he as well talked about that neighbor who was very observant. We thank you for the neighbor for being observant, for looking at that shed and recognizing that, well, wait a minute, something looks suspicious here. And then because the two suspects are Hispanic, he spoke directly to that person. By chance, the suspect was listening to television saying, you need to turn yourself in. We have you here. We have you surrounded. We're not going to leave. We're going to get you. And of course, follow the process of making sure that he's in jail where he needs to be.
Yeah, and presumably even speaking to someone who may know that person or has been in contact with them to clearly say, this is serious business. We've got hundreds of people out here searching, and we are not going anywhere until we track you down. He does believe that second suspect is still in that area within the cordoned off area. We want to go back now to Maya Shea, who was over at the hospital. I believe she may be at the memorial. No, she is back at Ben Taub again. And Maya, I'm sure you were able to hear some of this press conference. Is there anything you would like to add to that?
Well, what we know at this point, right, it's still a very fluid situation. And what our sources have said that initially was, of course, that this, as soon as this happened, there were a lot of people on the scene, just as the police chief and the mayor said, trying to make sure that the officers get the care that they need. We have seen within the last 20 minutes or so, a woman who arrived here via police vehicle into the hospital here. We believe that is the spouse of the officer here. Again, the officer here is the one who is less serious seriously injured. He was shot in the leg area multiple times. We have seen what looks like some of his clothing being removed by other officers here and being kept as evidence. Things have calmed down here at Bentop Hospital, where I am, within the last hour or so. Obviously, you guys saw Mayor Sylvester Turner having visited the officer here excuse me, a little while ago, made some initial statements, and then obviously joined with Chief Art Acevedo at Memorial Hermann and made some additional statements relating to what is going on. Again, one person is deceased, a suspect, but they are looking for at least one, if not two more suspects out there. It is still a very fluid situation. We have seen some officers come in and out trying to talk to their friends, trying to see if he's all right. We have some sources working on more details of this. As soon as I know that, I will give that to you. But that's the latest information right here at Bentop Hospital.
Very good.
And Maya, by the way, Jose Munoz, the 10-year veteran there at the hospital, we now know his name, and many of the details given to you by your highly placed sources all confirmed and certainly elaborated upon by the mayor and the police chief. So we thank you for getting that information to us as quickly as you did.
And
yes.
Go ahead, Maya.
Fire. I'm not sure if this is actually related. We have some firefight, large fire truck and some additional EMS folks. Houston police show up here. We'll just kind of let this roll as the ambulance move in, and some other there's police officers on scene, and we just saw 2 additional Houston fire units approach here. So it's a fluid situation here, and of course, it is still a working hospital, so there are other patients coming in, and there are a lot of other things that still go on in addition to treating this specific officer who was shot and injured today.
And those
so
families
we are in the process of looking at this.
Yeah, and the families as well of the individuals. Officer Cortez, Chief Acevedo mentioned that Officer Cortez, his family is on their way, as well as Officer Munoz. And Officer Cortez specifically, he has apparently college students, and one of his college students as well, has left that college, is now on his way to the hospital. We wanted to show you as well a picture as we continue to look at this picture of the Dr. Peirce, as well as speaking with the officers.
With the mayor and
others, there. Right. The scene that took place earlier, during that escort, that dramatic escort, as they left the neighborhood there, the 2 ambulances, 1 officer in each one, and then the escort which they received from nearly a dozen police units, the entire route all the way to the hospital. All the streets were blocked off, even the freeway shut down. A real open and easy access to just get these 2 men to the hospital as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and this is when they were just leaving the neighborhood. I wonder, by the way, if our director is able to keep up both screens so we can also see what is going on right now with the mayor and the police chief at Memorial Hermann. But this was the scene earlier today as they drove those 2 ambulances to the 2 level 1 trauma hospitals in our medical center. And we noticed pretty quickly that there was nobody else on the road, and then realized that there were officers in front of and behind, clearing the road all the way through so that there was no traffic stopping these ambulances from getting to the hospitals just as quickly as they possibly could.
Look how quickly they're traveling. I mean, they were passing cars almost like they're standing still. But incredibly here, this is the 59, and when they reached that area of traffic, the officers ahead were actually stopping the traffic and even halting traffic on 288 as they made that pass onto that ramp and then onto that freeway, and making a clear access straight to the medical center and Bentop and Memorial Hermann as well.
Yeah, because they were coming
and there you
all
see
the way
there's the
the
288. You see that blocked on the bottom there of your screen.
But we rarely see it looking like that. That was cleared out completely. People were stopped from getting on or off the exit ramps there. And then they turned off shortly right after this and into the medical center. And that was when we saw that they were going to 2 different hospitals, which are right next door to each other. We now know the less seriously injured Officer Munoz, a 10-year veteran, was taken to Bentop, and the more critically injured Officer Ronnie Cortez, a 24-year veteran, was taken to Memorial Hermann, where you just saw a few moments ago the mayor and the police chief and the head of EMS talking about that. But this much quicker trip, obviously, than it normally would have been, because everything was clear between here and there, and they made sure that those officers got quickly to the hospitals.
All right, let's go ahead and get back to the scene of the situation. Or Marla Carta, she is
all of
actually
the streets being held off. That's a much better shot there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As you
And
can see.
Marla Carta has been at Memorial Hermann all the way well before the officers actually arrived, and now she is continuing to be there. The officers have family members. We understand that they are going to be continuing to arrive, I guess, as they get word of what happened, and they're continuing to arrive even now. Is that right, Marla?
So you can see what we are seeing here. We just heard minutes ago from the police chief, also from the mayor, and I got an update from them. They are now starting to leave here, but have visited with the officer here. Ronnie Cortez, a 24-year veteran with the Houston Police Department, has been the one that was shot and is being treated here at Memorial Hermann. We are told that he's in critical condition by the police department's doctor. He has said that his condition improved, but that's all we know at this point in time. We don't know where he was shot or how many times he was shot, but he is in critical condition. And we do believe that there are at least some loved ones here at this point in time. And as you heard from the chief, he said additional loved ones are arriving as well. Now, this is all from a burglary that occurred just after 11 o'clock this morning. As you mentioned before, two officers were flagged down, including Officer Cortez, who is here at Memorial Hermann, by a neighbor. They set up a perimeter in that area, and then they saw something suspicious. And there was somebody in somebody's backyard in one of those sheds. Two very brave officers went to go investigate what was inside that shed, and that's where they found those two suspects who fired shots, injuring both of those officers. They did fire back. The officers fired back, and again, we've learned one of those suspects has died, and the other suspect is on the loose right now. He's described as a Hispanic man in all black with a blue bandana, and that's the information we learned from the news conference that we just heard from here at Memorial Hermann from both the mayor and the police chief. Now, he is still on the loose, and that is of grave concern. They actually have a shelter in place, and the police chief, again, was apologizing to the residents there, but saying it is of utmost importance. This man is extremely violent. If he's going to shoot on officers, who knows what he could do to someone else. So he was really much pleading with the public, stay inside, don't leave your house. This is a very dangerous situation. It's a little loud with that helicopter overhead. But he also said what's especially concerning right now is they don't know exactly where he is, but they do believe that he is still in that area, and that area that they've put a shelter in place for, that you've heard Elisa talking about this afternoon. That is the area they believe the suspect is in, and as far as we know, they've not expanded that perimeter at this point in time, but you heard him say they have over 100 officers out there really involved. They thank the sheriff's office, they thank the other law enforcement agencies for their assistance searching for this suspect as well. A full-on manhunt. They said they're not giving up, and they're also really asking the public today for prayers and saying that the officers go out every day putting their life on the line. And now one of them, of course, is in critical condition. Another one, Ed Ben Taub, is also hurt as well. So they're really just asking the public to send their thoughts and prayers, and I know everyone is doing that today.
All right, Marla, thank you so much. And by the way, are you continuing to see lots of officers arrive there to come by and support the family and support their officer who is now there in critical condition?
We are, and if you look out front here, you can see some of the police cars that are just kind of parked, and there's some even under that awning near where the ambulance is as well. So yeah, there's a lot of police cars. We've seen some come and go and really go in and out, and you can tell a lot of support. We saw a chaplain come in as well earlier, and again, a number of officers in and out here. We also saw a city councilor here. The mayor's been here twice already, and of course the police chief. So certainly seen a lot of support, because of course these are their brothers, and this really is something that they take personal, which is why the chief said, again, we are not giving up, we are pursuing this, and he said we're going to find you. So that's their mission.
All right, Marta, thank you for that reporting. Appreciate it. Back to the scene now as we continue to look at those aerial pictures of that area which we were discussing earlier, Southwest Houston. This is where it actually took place. This is just north of the Beltway, Sam Houston Tollway, and east of I-40, of I-59 or I-69. In this area as well is Welch Junior High School. Not sure where it lays within that area, but there you see the shelter in place. Somewhere within there you have Welch Junior High, or at least close to these perimeters, and that school is now under lockdown, Welch Junior High School. Now, this is about the hour where schools are let out, so we, at this point, if it's something's on lockdown, generally that means you're not allowed to be picking your children up. So we're going to find out more information about that if indeed you're allowed to go pick up your child at Welch Junior High School.
Yeah.
But a lockdown generally means nobody comes, nobody goes.
And parents may be receiving text or tweets
Right.
or something to that effect to let them know. But if you do have a child at Welch, there's an excellent chance that you may not be able to pick them up on time. As we heard from both the police chief and from the mayor, right now that search continues hot and heavy out there. The police chief said hundreds of officers out there searching from many different agencies. And as he warned that suspect, he said repeatedly.
That is right in that area.
Yeah, it is right there.
Yeah, it's right there on the edge, Welch Junior or Welch Middle School. You can see it right there on Gessner Road.
Yeah, right
just
there.
west of Gessner Road, just south of Belfort Avenue, because that entire area, Belfort Avenue to the south, Gessner Road to the west, all the way to the tollway, all of that area is shelter in place. So Welch Middle School is right there on the edge of that.
And it also looks as though there are a couple of elementary schools. I don't know if they fell outside of that.
Those are, I believe, are outside, because
they
it was everything
outside.
west of South Gessner Road, if you can see that area there.
Yeah, we'll try to overlay it and figure out if anybody else is affected. But we do get some sense there of where Welch is, and it is right smack dab in the middle of that area. We do want to try to get back out to Christine Dobbin, who is in the search area. As you have heard, the police chief is promising that this search will not let up in any way, shape, or form until they are able to find that suspect, who he has described, he believes, is armed and extremely dangerous and is not to be approached by anyone who is not a police officer. Christine?
Well, Melanie, it's a little bit misleading where we are right now because it's gotten a lot quieter. That's because all of the officers who were making entry, who were gearing up in their SWAT gear, are now inside at the staging area, which is just around the corner. And we know that search has intensified inside the neighborhood. We've actually seen a couple more people come out of the neighborhood, and we're sort of sandwiched in between a park, the neighborhood, and a gas station. And most of the people who have been at the gas station, they actually don't live in the neighborhood, but they've been in the area. They saw what happened. I also was talking with some city workers. They were coming here to clean the park just across the street, and they came upon all of this, and they are having a little difficulty finishing their work for the day because everything is simply on lockdown for the safety of everyone involved. And so right now, very quiet right here, but inside all of that activity, very intense for police as they look everywhere in the neighborhood trying to find this suspect. And as the police mentioned, they are not going to give this up until they have some type of resolution. In the next couple of hours, though, a lot more people are going to be coming home from school, coming home from work, so could make the situation interesting. Many people may have to just simply wait outside for their own safety instead of actually going into the neighborhood. They have issued that shelter in place.
Christine, as you're talking, we do want to sort of add to what you're saying here. We're now learning that three schools are now on lockdown: Valley West Elementary, Gross Elementary, and as we mentioned, Welch Middle School, all in that area. You were talking about parents expecting their kids home from school. Apparently parents at those three schools are being told that dismissal has been delayed for the time being. Still no word at this point how long this will last. But those three schools, we are told, inside that zone are indeed on lockdown: Valley West Elementary, Gross Elementary, and Welch Middle School. We do see just a little activity behind you, Christine, a black car that is moving around and other cars coming and going. Are these residents for the most part, or are we looking at perhaps police officers and undercover units?
That is an officer right there. It looks like in either his private car or undercover unit, and then we just saw another undercover car go in. But we have seen 2 or 3 residents coming out, so there are still a few people coming out. But as far as the students and the kids, a good idea to just simply keep them in place. You don't want to get them mobile in between places and then not really have a place for them to go. So I would guess they're just trying to narrow down the search area so that they can, try to get people in as quickly as possible. and safely, but of course still do their job as well.
Yeah, and you see a lot of constable vehicles out there as well. I mean, the HPD mentioned, and Chief Acevedo clearly mentioned as well, his thanks, his gratitude to the sheriff's office for reaching out and wanting to help as well. Not in their jurisdiction, but again, they're there, especially under these circumstances, because you have a couple of officers shot. Now, Christine, in your view, from when you were driving in, were you able to see any of the elementary schools or the middle school?
We were not, from the way we came in, and we've been pretty much locked down here at this scene because of the police activity. So we haven't seen any actual schools or activity, but of course they are very close to the perimeter of all of this.
Okay.
Well, Sky Eye has been up much of the afternoon.
Yeah.
In fact, we're looking at some video that Sky Eye shot for us.
Don Armstrong.
Yeah, Don Armstrong. I don't know if he is up live right now. He is refueling and heading back. But you get some sense of just how many units are out there. You can see on every single block and every driveway there are police units from various agencies, not to mention just that huge collection of officers standing there at what appears to be another command station. But this search is ongoing, and we've already been told by the police chief it is not going to stop until they find their man. At this point, he even warned him, we are not leaving, and there are hundreds of officers who are looking for you. We have been told that the description of the suspect is a Hispanic adult male, last seen wearing all black and a blue bandana. Christine, are you talking to us now?
Yes, I'm sorry. I just wanted to point out what we were seeing live here. They were actually having this gentleman step out of his van. Police searching the van as he is leaving the neighborhood to give him the all clear. But we just saw that 2 officers walked around the van, looked inside, and had him get outside.
Okay, so that I'm sure you're going to be seeing that repeatedly. But as you said, Christine, and great reporting out of there, that every car going in and out of all of these streets in that entire cordoned off area, they are going to be searched, and there are K9 units everywhere out there as well. The suspect is wearing, all we got from the chief was dark clothing, blue bandana, and Hispanic, presumably speaking Spanish, and as well he spoke to them directly in Spanish, and as well anyone who perhaps might know him. Maybe we can get to the map. I don't know if the Google map still exists about where that school was, Welch Middle School, because in that area I didn't see any other schools. And
well, you see a couple of elementary schools, but wrong names here, Tinsley and
yeah, those are
Parker.
way outside of the shelter in place, so that's why I'm curious. The shelter in place, if you zoom in on that map, is south of Belfort and west of South Gessner, and so I don't see those schools in that area. That's why earlier we indicated that we only thought that was Welch Middle School.
Yeah, in the border.
But see, yeah, it's right there south of Belfort and west of Gessner and north of Airport Boulevard. And Welch is right up there at the corner of South Gessner and Belfort. But again, those 3 schools, Welch Middle School, Valley West Elementary, Gross Elementary, if you have your student over there in those schools, just sort of sit tight for a minute. They're going to shelter them there in place. They're going to keep them under lockdown. They're not going to let them out. They will be safe, so no concern about that. So no need to race over there and trying to pick them up, because it's going to be tremendously difficult for you to be able to get into that area. In fact, you're not going to be able to get into that area by all accounts.
And if people are just tuning in, we do kind of want to let them know what is going on. We have right now just a neighborhood-wide search, a manhunt right now, a real dragnet, looking for a suspect presumed to be armed and extremely dangerous, who engaged in a shootout with 2 police officers earlier today at 11:08, according to the police chief. There was a call of a burglary in process in the 8700 block of Sterling Game in that area there that is red in the area that is cordoned off there. At 11:20, police arrived. But before they got there, another officer flagged them down in the neighborhood and said there was a second burglary going on in the area very close by. They set up a perimeter, they called for backup, air support, and K9, and that's when the active search began. Well, one neighbor there said, something suspicious in my backyard. It looks as though the door to my shed is open, and it shouldn't be. So a couple of officers, the 2 injured officers, jumped the fence, went inside to inspect that shed, and 2 men came out, guns blazing.
Right.
They were able to return fire and kill one of the suspects. The second suspect got away from the scene And what we now know is that both of those officers were hit, that one officer is critically injured and is right now at Memorial Hermann Hospital. He is a 24-year veteran. The second officer was actually hit in the lower extremities and is at Bentop and is in stable condition and expected to do very well. But even the critically ill officer, we were told, critically injured officer, has been able to talk and communicate with his family.
He has been doing
and they
that.
say has
That's
improved even
news.
since he arrived at the
Right.
hospital, which is good news.
And they eventually, that later this afternoon, going to be undergoing surgery, trying to get the bullets, he said, fragments out of his body. That will happen during surgery. Another indicator as well from Chief Acevedo, as he spoke about this event taking place, he said so incredibly bold for these officers to simply, well, not the officers, excuse me, the suspects, to get out of that shed, guns blazing, and just fire at the officers. He said when that happens, you know that these are the types of individuals who would kill senselessly without taking a second thought. And for everyone, that's why they're sheltering in place.
Yeah, two uniformed
officers to shoot at two uniformed officers in broad daylight, nonetheless. And so the officers, of course, instinctively firing back, and were able to kill one of the suspects, which is certainly a good thing there, that at least one was down and one, sadly, still on the run, still on the loose. And that search continues in this area.
Yeah,
but they will not give up the
he
search.
was not able to get far, but
Right.
but clearly, if he is facing this kind of army of officers, and we're talking about not only the Houston Police Department, the Sheriff's Office is also part of this. We've seen several constable units. There are a number of agencies, really all of them on the ground now, searching door to door, looking for this last suspect, last described as an adult Hispanic male wearing all black and a blue bandana. I'm sure perhaps trying to change his appearance between now and then.
And said the chief, we are not leaving. Hundreds of officers are in this area, and we are not leaving. We will be there until you are found. So there it is, black clothes, blue bandana. And perhaps by now that he has changed his clothes, but we are unsure. We don't know whether he's still in that area. Let's hope that he is, at least that he hasn't left this area, and that there's just still a chance for these officers to be able to get this guy.
What we also don't know is whether or not that second suspect was injured. We do know there was a shootout, but we are not aware of whether or not that suspect was injured, and I'm not sure either the police chief or the mayor has been able to address that issue.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything of the sort at this point, but perhaps, I mean, you never know. Once you get a better interview, of course, with those officers who were involved in that shooting, they could somehow indicate perhaps that he was gunned down, or I mean, not gunned down, but at least injured in the process of that shootout. All right, Maya Shea, I understand, is live still at the hospital. Let's get back to her.
She is at the hospital, so we want to find out whether or not there has been any more activity out there. And one of the other things we should mention, Maya, before we toss to you, is that they were able to get the guns that they were using and that they shot at the police with from the first burglary.
Right.
That they stole the guns from the first home that they burglarized.
Wow.
So we want to go back to Maya Shea right now, who is still standing there outside of Bentop Hospital. I continue to see lots of police activity behind you, Maya, so I assume officers continue to come and go to pay their respects.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And also we can tell you that we saw Police Chief Acevedo walk in about 10-15 minutes ago to visit the injured officer here. As you well know, as we have covered all afternoon, the police chief was first at the scene and then at Memorial Hermann Hospital visiting the more seriously injured of the two officers. He is now here visiting the other officer, Officer Munoz, at this hospital, who was shot in the lower leg area. And he's been here about 10-15 minutes. Several sources within HPD who knew the officers tell me that they worked out of the Gessner substation. For those who are familiar with Southwest Houston, the Gessner substation is a fairly large facility. A number of officers work out of that facility. It's fairly new. It's in really good shape. A lot of officers come and go out of there, South Gessner, and so they can be within easy access of a lot of things that take place in and around that Southwest Houston corridor. And these two officers both worked out of that division. I spoke to it anyway, at least some officers who were with them just earlier a few days ago, and so they were all in good spirits and just doing the regular kind of sort of officers hanging out together, that sort of thing. And now they're dealing with some very serious injuries. We have been told repeatedly that the injuries to Officer Cortez very grave at Memorial Hermann, including some gunshots that hit his back area. The officer here, Munoz, not as seriously injured as we have been reporting throughout the afternoon, hit in the leg area. We know that his wife is here now, along with union representatives, as well as a number of officers, investigators, as well as the police chief. So surrounded by people who care about him, who want to make sure that he recovers fully, even as the investigation into this shooting continues. And I'll have to tell you, Art, Melanie, what I've heard within the last hour or so are officers I know actually talking to me and telling me, hey, we're going to make sure we catch these guys, that they had no place to do what they did, to fire at the officers, and that the ones who are out there, that they are being hunted down by officers and they will be found. And there's definitely no doubt in the minds of the officers I've spoken with that is what will happen.
Yeah, they are certainly determined to make that happen, Maya. And the chief, as you said, was very solid and bold in this point. We're going to hunt you down, and we're not going to give up any resources, and we're going to make sure that this happens. Thank you for that report,
it's
Maya.
also good to know they were both wearing bulletproof vests, so they knew this was a very
Yeah.
serious situation they were walking into. We are now back live in Sky Eye above the scene. Oh, no, we're going to go back to Ben Taub, we're being told right now. And apparently the chief has arrived at Ben Taub Hospital. So let's go back to Ben Taub and to Maya Shea.
There he is there as he continues to make his way around. First he was at Memorial Hermann. He is likely going to be making a statement here. He's going to be talking once again to the media. Maya Shea is right there right now. You can see John in the background as well. The mayor has been walking around as well, and visiting both hospitals.
Well, we can also see on the right-hand side some live pictures from Sky Eye, and you now see a number of officers there in the yards between the houses there as this search continues.
One more time. Okay, real quick. I'm just going to do a quick update.
And maybe, do you Chief, just kind of with what you saw inside here?
Yeah, can you specifically talk to about, did you get a chance to speak with
I did. I did get to visit with Officer Munoz and his wife, and he's in great spirits. He's alert. He's doing well. We're hoping he'll be released tomorrow, but he's very fortunate, and so I'm just thankful that we could have very easily had 2 dead police officers today, and I'm just grateful that we have 2 right now. One that's obviously fighting a much tougher battle at Hermann, but Officer Munoz is doing really well. He's in a lot of pain from being shot, but he's doing well. His wife's doing well. We've made arrangements for out-of-state family members and out-of-city family members to come. I've heard that United Airlines is helping us bring a daughter from back east, and I just want to say thank you, United Airlines, for being our partners of helping us out. So anything else?
Anything new on the search? Anything new on the search at this point?
The search continues, and again, so it's really important for those community members to just stay put.
Do you know if these officers, were they on some sort of tactical or gang sort of patrol, or was it regular patrol?
We had a TAC unit in the area, was actually working on some burglary issues. We've had some issues with burglaries, residential burglaries in the area, and they were out there actually working on that. And, unfortunately, the suspect has started fighting with our officers in that shed and produced a gun and started opening fire on them.
Chief, it's my understanding that you guys may have a photo or surveillance picture that you're distributing to officers to try and track down this suspect.
I've been for the last hour now. I've been focusing on our officers here. Again, the search is ongoing. We're not going to stop that search for quite a while. So I just want to ask residents to be patient. Again, it's very frustrating when you get the inconvenience the way that we are right now. But again, somebody that's willing to shoot police officers, that tries to kill police officers, is somebody that will not hesitate to kill a member of our community. And so I think it's in everybody's best interest to come together, be patient, pray for these officers, both of them, and more importantly, let us do our search.
¿Habló usted con el oficial Muñoz?
Oficial Muñoz está despierto, está alerta, gracias a Dios va a estar bien, va a seguir en el hospital esta noche, pero con el favor de Dios va a salir mañana. Está ahí con su esposa y estoy muy orgulloso de él, estoy muy orgulloso del coraje que él y sus oficiales, I think what we saw today was the courage of the American police officer. As much as we, as a society, like to disparage police officers, the truth of the matter remains that the very vast majority of our men and women are honorable, they're courageous, they're brave, they don't run away from danger, they run towards danger, and that's what we saw here today. And so I've said it before and I'll say it again, let's hold the few bad apples in law enforcement accountable. But what I love about the people of Houston, from my mayor, Sylvester Turner, his council colleagues, that while they expect me to hold the few bad apples accountable, we do a good job of lifting up the good cops, which I think is the very vast majority of police officers. Today, I just want to thank everybody that's been lifting up our officers in prayer, and I ask them to just continue.
La comunidad hispana está preocupada, 2 oficiales hispanos, sospechosos hispanos, obviamente es una tragedia para la comunidad hispana también. ¿Cuál sería su mensaje a esta comunidad? Bueno,
mi mensaje es que nuestra comunidad hispana, la gran mayoría son personas que respetan la ley, que son personas de fe, familiares, personas que creen en la familia, creen en su fe, creen en el trabajo. No estamos preocupados por ellos. Nosotros vivimos el trabajo, nosotros estamos en el servicio para proteger a la comunidad que respeta la ley.
Good afternoon, everyone. Eric Barajas here, joined with Ilona Carson now to get an update on what's been going on here. Of course, if you are just catching up, this all happened at 11 a.m. this morning. 2 burglary suspects were caught by police in a shed. They opened fire. One was shot dead on the scene. Another one got away, but both officers were both shot. We just heard Chief Art Acevedo. He just visited Officer Munoz, a 10-year veteran, there at Bentob Hospital. Let's go ahead and listen in once again, Chief.
A woman that found a burglar inside her home. We talk about all these debates around here about sanctuary cities and all this other stuff. Listen, we got a lot of serious things to worry about in this community. And when that woman called 911 because somebody was in her home, I'm glad that our officers were freed up to go deal with serious crime, which was impacting our community. So what we need to focus on right now, I believe, is the fact that we have a problem with crime, like every major city. Crime is going up in a lot of major cities. But the most important piece for me is that we have police officers that are courageous, that are servants, that are God-fearing, more importantly, that are not afraid to put themselves in harm's way. And that's what happened today. When our officers responded, then they got flagged down about another burglary, and then they were told, hey, by the resident in the location where the storage shed and the shooting occurred, hey, that shed back there, that door, something's not right with it, something's suspicious. Our officers didn't run away from that. They didn't just say, hey, well, you know what, that could be dangerous. They went, they found the suspect, they engaged the suspect, they tried to take the suspect into custody, and rather than submitting to the lawful authority that's vested on these officers by the community that they serve, the suspect decided to produce a firearm and open fire, striking both of our officers multiple times. So, and back to your point, we know we have a burglary issue in a lot of parts of Houston. I know for a fact we had TAC teams in the area, and that's why we were able to really converge on the area in very large numbers, and we're confident and we're hopeful that that second outstanding suspect that's described as a male Hispanic adult wearing all dark clothing and a blue bandana is in the area. And sometimes these guys hole up in houses. We ain't going away, and we're not going to leave until we finish our search. You might as well turn yourself in. El oficial, el mensaje fue que la comunidad, el departamento, el alcalde, el concilios, todos estamos ahí con ellos. Estamos muy orgullosos.
All right, once again, you've been listening to Chief Art Acevedo there again. He's at Bentob Hospital visiting one of the officers that was not wounded as bad. That's Officer Munoz again, who was shot in the leg area. We heard from the chief that Officer Munoz's wife is there with him inside the hospital, said to be in good spirits. I believe we do have Maya Shea there, who's been also listening in to this press conference as well right now.
Yeah, we're going to be talking to her in just a moment because, yes, he continues to give us more information and go back and forth. Obviously, he's also briefing everyone in Spanish, but giving us one more question here to get to. Let's listen.
Because there's some confusion about what I believe you told some folks. I know there's a lot of information that started about 11:08
And I think there were some other thoughts that maybe it started at 12:08. We're just wanting to...
No, hey, the timeline's the time I already put it out. As you can imagine, when you have 2 officers shot multiple times, you have a dead suspect, you have another suspect. I don't think timelines are that critical right now. You know, we have somebody that we're looking for that we are going to assume is armed and dangerous, and we're going to focus on the health of our officers, securing that community, and trying to get that second suspect. There'll be plenty of time to give you a more up-to-date and, I think, more accurate timeline. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I'll be all over the place. So, thanks, guys.
All right, you've heard RDOC's Chief Art Acevedo there speaking with reporters outside Bentop Hospital. I was being asked there last question about a timeline. He said right now it's still a little bit too late to get to that, but let's listen to this press briefing as well.
The last few hours, once again, Houston is stepping up and showing why we're the best city in America, the best city in the world, that you folks are caring this much about your officers. We certainly appreciate that. I'd like to commend...
All right, you heard another press briefing here. As we go to a live picture here of the area. Again, if you're just kind of tuning in and getting caught up, this is an area that is in the east corner of 59 and the Beltway, just south of Belfort. It's going to cause a huge traffic mess right now because that area has a shelter in place for over 1,800 homes.
Yeah, this is incredibly important that the takeaway for folks in this area is that after all this went down earlier, at least one suspect remains on the loose, considered armed and extremely dangerous. So you can imagine this is being taken extremely seriously. When we talk about a shelter in place, we have a lot of families in this area. This is the time that school gets out, and as Eric said, this is causing quite a bit of confusion and difficulty in the neighborhood. I shouldn't say confusion because they've been very good about conveying information. So we're getting more information about what schools in the area are doing and what this means for folks who live in that shelter in place. Rebecca Spirit is watching all of that very carefully for us. Rebecca?
Hey, Eric and Alona. Yeah, a lot of folks are getting out of work, getting out of school, and so they're not exactly what's going on when they turn on the TV. So I'm trying to help you with really knowing exactly where this is. So if you go to the maps, here's the Southwest Freeway. Here is the South Belt. Where this happened is right in this corner, right in this area. I'm going to zoom in and give you an idea of where that shelter in place is. I have it all marked off here. The incident happened at 8714 Sterling Lane. That's right here. A little bit slow already over on West Belfort. You can see slowdowns here on Airport and also on Gessner. And it wasn't too bad over the past couple of hours, but now that schools are letting out, now that people are getting out of work and they're trying to get home, we are starting to see delays on these side streets. And speaking of those schools, we do know that HISD does have a couple of shelter in places. So I marked them on the map. We've got 3 different schools. Welch Middle School is right here. They are dealing with a shelter in place. So is Valley West Elementary and also Gross Elementary. And right here is Gessner. And that's the street that we're starting to see massive slowdowns heading northbound towards 59, the Southwest Freeway. So I want to go out to our TransStar cameras. Here is a look at the belt. This is right here at West Airport. This is a spot where a lot of folks were lined up. This is where Lisa Rivas was reporting from for some time. There's a side street here called Oglethorpe. Traffic really not getting by. This is an entrance into that Glenshire neighborhood. Now, I want you to know that the Beltway is moving. You could see cars going by, no problem. 59 is moving. This is not affecting your freeways at all. It is slowing down your feeders, though. So I want to show you on the map how slow your feeders are looking. Right here at the intersection of the Beltway and Airport, it is going to be a slow go getting through that intersection. 5 miles per hour is your average speed. Over at Belfort, 6 miles per hour is your average speed. It's actually easier to get off at Gessner, but you're going to be dealing with slowdowns throughout all of these streets in this area. So if you can avoid the area, that's going to be your best bet. Of course, if you're stuck sheltering in place, you're going to want to do that as well. Back to you.
And we take a picture here of Sky Eye, but we also want to reiterate some of the school closing information, lockdown information, I should say, that Rebecca was talking about there. I believe we have a map for you to give you kind of a better picture of what we're talking about here. Again, the HISD schools that are on lockdown, or I should say dismissal is delayed until further notice, are Valley West Elementary, Welch Middle School, and Gross Elementary. Again, dismissal is being delayed until further notice because, as we've been telling you, a shelter in place for over 1,800 homes is in place right now as they continue to look for this suspect who they consider armed and dangerous.
Yeah, the bottom line for parents is that your children are safe inside of their school. So that's the best place for them right now. If you happen to be one of those 1,800 households that's affected by this, you don't want to be driving around trying to figure out where you should go and how and when you will get back home. So they've decided to simply keep all those children inside of their school. And as Eric said, they'll keep us updated, and they will certainly keep you updated about when they will conduct dismissal and your students will be able to come home. Speaking of all of these families that have been displaced, trying to figure out exactly where they should go and what they should do right now, we're going to go back out to Eyewitness News reporter Elisa Rivas, who is close to that area. And Elisa, certainly folks dealing with this question this afternoon.
Alona, we want to give you a look at exactly where we are. This is as close as some people can get. We are here at the Beltway and West Airport right now. There is a McDonald's, if you're familiar with this intersection. The McDonald's has closed, citing safety concerns with HPD closing down the area. And there is a small group of people. It's an open parking lot, so they gather just trying to wait to get inside. We're going to talk with Miss Cynthia Jenkins. Now, you don't live in the area, but you are waiting to get inside. What are you waiting to get inside for, ma'am?
I work in the subdivision.
And so you're going in to pick up a truck, right?
Yes. And then go to the day hab and get the clients, and then we go back to the house.
For an adult daycare, correct?
Yes. It's a group home.
And when did you first realize what was going on out here?
Well, I have to be to work at 2 o'clock, so when I was trying to get to work, that's when I found out I couldn't get in the subdivision.
And now knowing that they're looking for someone, you still feel comfortable hanging out here?
Well, until all the police are gone and they said they found the suspects, I'm fine.
Right? And anything that you've heard in terms of concerns from your employer as to getting these people back to where they're supposed to be?
No, she just told me to, find somewhere close to go and just wait it out since we couldn't get to the house.
Is this an unbelievable scene to you?
Yes, it is. It really is.
Thank you so much. That's Miss Cynthia Jenkins, and she's been out here, for a little while. You can see she's even pulled her chair out because it's turning into a long afternoon for the people that are driving around this area, waiting to get in and out of their neighborhoods for now. But with no sign that things are slowing up from this location anyway, people are really just waiting, and they're trying to get around the area. The neighborhood can commonly be used as a cut through to get to major thoroughfares, but not this afternoon as this search still continues. We've got helicopters still in the air, plenty of law enforcement presence. And although we're hearing that, perhaps some kids are being released from school, right now you can see this area still very much locked off. Right at that area where you've got Sam Houston and West Airport, nobody gets any farther down that feeder.
And Elisa, you have to think 10 years ago, this would have been a scene of mass confusion for folks in that neighborhood. But it seems like a lot of people know exactly what's going on, and they know that they are supposed to either stay inside their homes or they can't go into the neighborhood. Are you finding that to be the case?
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, if they haven't seen it on the news or heard it on the radio, certainly social media helps out with that a lot. They get information directly to the public that way. We assist them in relaying it as well. And so people, I think, feel comfortable that there is a heavy law enforcement presence, comfortable enough to sit out on the corner and just wait it out just outside the perimeter because they feel like there's a strong presence. And if perhaps somebody who would cause danger to the public is around here, that law enforcement has poured itself onto this neighborhood in order to prevent that from happening, Alona.
All right, Elisa, thanks a lot for that live update right there. Kind of just giving perspective on how that neighborhood is shut down right now. We heard from Chief Acevedo saying, asking residents during his live press conference, just be patient. He knows this is an inconvenience, but he made a very clear point. He said, look, the suspect that's on the run right now already shot at an officer. So he is armed and dangerous. Stay safe, stay sheltered in place until they can finish this search right now, which they said could go on for several hours. There is also an update to the schools in the area that are on delayed dismissal. We're being told now that Gross Elementary is releasing students to parents right now. So if you're a parent that's in the neighborhood and can possibly get over there, they are releasing students at Gross Elementary, which has been on this delayed dismissal. They are releasing those students to parents at this point.
Okay, they will not be taking them home like they normally would, but yes, if you can get over there, perhaps some very good news for parents at that school. You can see the contingent here in this neighborhood. So those officers and the chief have said that wherever this person is, they are going to find him. I did hear him say earlier that they felt there was a very good chance that this suspect was still in their dragnet, still in this area that has been told to stay in place and is sort of on a lockdown of sorts. And so you can see they are going house by house and street by street with police dogs and with these multiple tactical teams out there looking for any sign of this suspect because obviously they've had a lot of eyeballs on that area. And at this point, it sounds like no sign of him so far.
No sign so far, but we know they have set up a perimeter around the area, so technically they believe he cannot get out of that neighborhood if he is still there, so they're going to continue to look for him. Now, let's go back to Memorial Hermann Hospital. That is where Officer Ronnie Cortez is. Now, he's the one that was in much more serious condition, a 24-year veteran with the department. We have Marla Carter at Memorial Hermann, who's been keeping updates on activity there. Marla, what can you tell us?
Yeah, the Houston Police Chief, Art Acevedo, just arrived again. That is Chief Acevedo right there. He is talking with a number of other officers, have been getting hugs and consoling them. Of course, this is a very devastating situation for them. I know the chief was just saying how tragic it is and how he said he is determined to find the suspect in this case. As you mentioned, the officer here is Ronnie Cortez. He is a 24-year veteran of HPD. He is in critical condition. Now, we did hear this afternoon from the City of Houston EMS director, and he said that the condition of Officer Cortez has improved. However, again, he still is in critical condition, and we do know that some family is on their way here to see him. That is something that both the chief and the mayor were saying as well. They do take this very personal, and again, they are determined to find the suspects in the case. And just to rehash what happened today, around 11 o'clock, officers responding to a call of a burglary in process at 8700 block of Sterling Game. Police were en route about 10 minutes later, and then officers were flagged down for a secondary burglary in the area. Officers set up a perimeter, and shortly after that, the tactical units arrived on the scene. Soon after that, one of the residents noticed something suspicious. The door was ajar to their shed, so that's when two of the officers, including Officer Cortez, who is here at Memorial Hermann, they climbed over. And as they approached the shed, they were shot at. Again, both of them were shot, and Officer Cortez is here in critical condition at Memorial Hermann. The other officer is said to be faring better, and he has been tabbed. One of the suspects was killed. The second suspect is on the loose right now. They do believe he is still in that area, and they have set up a perimeter. And all we know at this point in time is he's described as a Hispanic man wearing all black with a blue bandana, but they're really asking residents in that area to stay put, stay inside. If you hear something suspicious, if you hear your dog barking outside in your backyard, call police. Do not take any risk whatsoever. Stay indoors, and again, take shelter. He said these are very violent people. If they're going to fire on officers, who knows what else they're going to do. He also asked the City of Houston something. He said, please pray for our officers. This has been a very difficult day for not just their family, but also their fellow brothers, their officers in uniform. And you can see just amount of officers out here right now showing their love and their support as they've been going in and out, really visiting Officer Cortez. We've seen some council members here. We've seen the chaplain here. And, of course, the family members are here as well, along with the mayor and the police chief. And they've really been going back and forth between this hospital and Ben Taub, really wanting to see how the officers are doing and, of course, letting them know that they care, that they're loved, and that they are determined to find this suspect who is still on the loose. Guys?
All right, Marla, thanks a lot. I hope we all, realize Houston sending out a lot of prayers right now for both officers involved. Thanks a lot for the live update, Marla. And look at this picture from Sky IHD. It really paints the picture of how serious this manhunt is right now.
Yeah, just dozens and dozens of officers on the scene of this area that they've been calling the Dragnet, and we have seen them with police dogs as well, looking at different houses. Don Armstrong is up above this scene in Sky Eye, and he's been watching all of this unfold now all afternoon. Don, can you see these sorts of numbers of officers all around this entire neighborhood, and have we been able to tell sort of what the strategy is in going from house to house and looking around?
Well, it's hard to tell what the strategy is, Alona, but I can tell you that there are over 70 police vehicles in this neighborhood. It is filled to capacity with HPD as well as Sheriff's Department, constables, all of the police dogs within the HPD confines have been called to this scene. They are scattered throughout the neighborhood, and one of the things that I did notice, as a matter of fact, there's a bunch of them right there that are walking down the street, that these officers gather up at about 4 to 6 officers in a bunch, and they usually go in with a police dog, and they search backyards, garages, any kind of outdoor shed, that type of thing. And it's very methodical. They go door to door out here in this area, but you can see the number of police vehicles well over 70, and there's no way that anybody could ever get in here now. It's matter of fact, the search has now gone outside of the original area. You can see they're way down here, down the street, and working this entire subdivision. It is quite a sight to see. Also, as was mentioned earlier, that the freeway traffic actually on the feeder is affected by this as well. And just to give you an idea of where we are, there's the Beltway right there, and that is Airport Boulevard over here. And as you can see, traffic is stacked up at that intersection because traffic is not allowed to come down the feeder here. They want to make sure that all of this is open. I know that there are a lot of press vehicles down here at the Valero station, and ambulances standing by, also some vehicles that I have never seen before, including one from HPD, that Houston Fire Department, that is here as well in support of this search for this suspect. Again, the body of the deceased suspect is still in place in the backyard. They have not moved that yet. Investigation continues over here in the Glenshire subdivision. That's where we are. And this is going to be an ongoing thing until this other suspect, suspects, we understand that there could be 2, is found and located. It's going to be a while. One of the things that I wanted to mention to the fact is that, this suspect could be anywhere. He could be hiding in an attic somewhere, in an out garage. There's no way of knowing, but they're going to go door to door, and they're going to stay here until they do find him. Eric, come on.
Well, and I know you mentioned it. I mean, we're talking 70-plus police vehicles, dozens and dozens of officers and canine units. But when you look from Sky Eye, you can see just how large this area is when you make such a good point. This suspect or suspects could be anywhere, could be in someone's home, could be in another shed. You realize just how large the task is out there for officers.
Well, that's exactly right. And I mentioned also a vehicle that I hadn't seen before, and here it is here. Now, this is stationed several blocks away, as are a lot of these type of support vehicles. This one here is from the Houston Fire Department. It says here Incident Command Center, so they do have a command center here set up just in case they need to be in support of Houston Police Department and their efforts to nab this suspect. But as you can see, from blocks away from the actual place where the incident occurred, there are police vehicles. This is all cordoned off. There's no way that anybody could get in or out of here. There are police vehicles almost at every intersection here, and if there's not at an intersection, I guarantee you there are eyes on that intersection. So this is definitely a secured area here. That there's no way that you're going to find anybody walking around here. All these people are inside and doing what the police have asked them to do, and that is to remain locked in their homes.
Yes, Don, the perimeter is very well set in place as we watch live here. More officers making their way through the streets of this Glenshire subdivision. Thanks a lot for the great pictures from up above in Sky Eye. And now we've also got Christine Dobbin live in this Glenshire neighborhood. She's there on the ground, and she's also been collecting a lot of information since the shooting happened. Christine, can you hear us right now? What's the latest?
Yes, I can. And Eric, I can tell you what we've been seeing the last few minutes are many different officers leaving the neighborhood. That one is going at a pretty high rate of speed, so I don't know if he's headed to a tip, but we've seen at least a dozen or so from multiple agencies actually coming out of the neighborhood. I don't know what you can see from Sky, but this is what we can see on the ground, and this has been one of the main entrances where they've been going in all day, and we know the staging area is just around the corner. The police chief has been very clear about how long and how far they would search, wanting to make sure that this comes to a good conclusion, and even speaking to the man they're looking for himself, hoping that they will find him. But right now it looks like that several law enforcement officers have been leaving the scene, whether they're switching shifts or just repositioning. We're not really sure what that means right now. We know the staging area, though, is just around the corner.
Yeah, Christine, you make a good point, because it certainly looks like a large contingent of folks all driving out of there at the same time. We will certainly be following all of this from Sky Eye to see if they are all headed in one particular direction. I know that you all are pretty much in lockdown as well, but definitely a trend to note right now, because that isn't something that we've been seeing for the past couple of hours. As far as we know, Christine, for the people who actually live in that neighborhood, who in general are staying inside of their homes and doing what police are telling them to do, they can't leave the neighborhood, right? They're supposed to stay inside, and if they wanted to get in their car and leave, they're really not supposed to do that.
That's been the advice. We have seen a few people who have come out, and we've even seen some searches of vehicles by law enforcement. They circled the vehicle, looked inside as well, but the police chief and many others are strongly urging them to stay inside, because you just don't know the situation. You might walk outside and there could be police activity right beside you. So still a very dangerous situation until they clear this. But you can see more unmarked vehicles coming out, and this is something we have not seen at all. Mostly we have seen dozens going in when this first happened. Here's a tow truck coming out right now, but this is something we have not seen in the 3 hours that I've been standing here.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we are seeing a steady stream of officers leaving that scene, so certainly we will continue to follow to figure out where they are going if possible, but definitely, as you said, something that we haven't been seeing. That's right, but we do see this live picture right here. That's the crime scene tape. The roof in your left part of this box is the roof in question as Don Armstrong zooms out. And if he zooms out even a little bit more, you'll be able to see the shed that is at the subject of this officer-involved shooting. It's in that far corner right there. And again, this is where, I believe, this is the shed where officers confronted two burglary suspects in this area. And again, that kicked off the entire shooting and the manhunt as well. Now, of course, as we've been telling you, 1,800 homes shelter in place right now. They're essentially told not to leave. The chief's asking them to be patient as they conduct this manhunt. We've also got Elisa Rivas, who we spoke to a while ago. She's essentially just outside this neighborhood, even sitting with some residents who cannot get into the neighborhood right now. Let's go back to Elisa there on the ground for the latest.
Right, Eric, this is kind of a last stopping point for people as they try to get back to their neighborhood. Let me show you what's going on here. This is the McDonald's, and it says on the door, per HPD requirement, we are closed. So an occasional person will come through the drive-thru, but other than that, not a lot of traffic in this area. As you look further down, we are on West Airport here at the feeder road northbound, and this is the spot where they are not letting any civilian traffic go any farther. No more civilian traffic goes north here between West Airport and West Belfort. And if you turn around this way, you can see the traffic as it's backed up. This is the neighborhood here, the far side of the neighborhood. And there is some traffic, it seems, starting to get in on this side. And we're trying to figure out a little bit of what's going on there. If perhaps one road has been opened, clearly still a lot of law enforcement in the area, things not fully open, but we're seeing some new traffic into different roads, and so we are going to be checking up on that for you to let you know exactly what's going on in the neighborhood. For right now, we do still have a lot of law enforcement, as I mentioned, and a road still blocked off. The major intersection, the major entry point from the Beltway feeder is still closed off, where you would go farther and get into the Glenshire neighborhood. That is still closed off to residents and all through traffic at this point. Back to you.
All right, Lisa, thanks a lot for that live update. And again, as we kind of see how fluid this shelter in place is, some officers leaving, some officers staying, and even maybe some residents slightly being allowed back in from what Elisa said she was possibly seeing there. Let's go back to Rebecca Spira for more of a traffic type update on this situation.
Well, Lisa gave us a good update over on the Beltway and that feeder because it was open for some time, but about a half hour ago, they did close that West Belt feeder heading northbound. So I want to zoom into the area, kind of just show you exactly where we're talking about. This is in southwest Houston. It's just south of I-69, the Southwest Freeway, just north or northeast of the Beltway here. I'm going to show you exactly where the issue is and where the shelter in place is. It's right here in the Glenshire neighborhood. This is West Belfort. This is Gessner, which has been slowing down tremendously over the past 30 minutes or so. This is West Airport. Here's the feeder. That's the area we're talking about that's completely blocked off. Right now on that feeder, there is no access as you head northbound between West Airport and Belfort. So here's a good example of what the big scene is looking like. So you can see that it is slow on Gessner. Fondren is starting to slow down between West Airport and Belfort. You can use that as an alternate. You can also use Highway 90A as an alternate. You can also just decide to stay away from the West Beltway altogether and take the Southwest Freeway. You can exit Bissonnette and head eastbound to get over to that area, that vicinity. But I wanted to take you out to our TransStar cameras so I can show you what the area at Gessner is looking like. So you can see, because we know that the feeder's blocked off between Airport and Belfort, Gessner's just a little further south from there. So you can see the backup here on the feeder heading northbound now that that feeder's completely blocked off, causing a lot of slowdowns in this area. Your better bet is to get off at those other areas, Highway 90 or Fondren. That's where the freeway's looking a lot better. This shot's not showing you the feeder very well right now, but you can see this feeder. Hopefully this is northbound. If we're in luck, this feeder is moving pretty well. So that's going to be your best solution if you're trying to get into this area of southwest Houston without getting involved in all that traffic. Want to tell you about the metro bus routes that are affected, because we do have a couple of bus routes that are really affected and they have to go through detours just like everybody else because of this. So the metro bus West Belfort number 8, 14 stops are affected, both eastbound and westbound between the South Belt and Gessner. Also Gessner number 46, there are 14 northbound and southbound stops that are affected because of the shelter in place and what's going on there. That is going to be between Belfort and West Airport. And then over on West Airport, their route number 7, 5 stops are going to be affected there. Now, that's going to only be northbound on West Airport between West Airport and Fondren Meadows. So that's what I've got for you right now, guys. But definitely areas that you want to stay away from over on the southwest side. If you can just avoid the area altogether, that's going to be your best bet.
Absolutely. Rebecca, thank you very much. Now, let's get you an update for all of you parents, HISD parents with students at these 3 schools that have been affected by this. Valley West Elementary, Welch Middle School, and Gross Elementary had essentially been on a lockdown of sorts because they were not dismissing students. They had delayed dismissal. Gross Elementary has recently allowed parents to go there to pick up their children. Okay, so they are not taking them home to you, but if you are a parent of a Gross Elementary student, you have been able to go and pick up your child. Valley West Elementary and Welch Middle School still delaying dismissal. They are communicating with parents and letting them know as those decisions change. But for right now, this is certainly the safest place for your child. And so they'll let you know when it's fine for them to go be picked up or when they'll be getting home.
All right, let's go ahead and check back into with Don Armstrong. He's been following this entire scene here unfolding from Sky IHD's vantage point. And Don, we heard from Christine Dobbin, who is in one area of Glenshire's subdivision. We also heard from Elisa Rivas, who is just outside the subdivision. Both of them seem to feel that either there were a few residents being let in, but there were also maybe some officers leaving. What kind of activity have you been able to monitor from Sky Eye?
Well, it's hard to tell. They've been coming and going. I did want to bring you up to date on where we are. We've moved about 2 miles from the scene just to the north. We're over here at the Beltway, just south of 59, the Southwest Freeway. You can see there's 59 there. This is the Beltway here. This is Keegan's Bayou. Now, there are a lot of officers that have converged on this bayou over here, appear to be searching for the suspect. And you can see these inlet pipes into the bayou here. They were crouching down, looking in there to see if they could find anything. So a number of officers all the way up to 2 miles away now. And this is something new that we're looking at here away from the scene. I'll show you where the scene is here. It's way back over here, down the Beltway over here to the left. there's the McDonald's, and there is Airport Boulevard, where all of the traffic is being stopped at the moment. And over here to the left is the scene. So this is quite a ways away from the actual scene where now the search is being taken place over here at Keegan's Bayou. A number of police vehicles here, as you can see. So, and to answer your question a little bit more, yes, there have been a number of officers that have come and gone from the scene. Some have left. Remember, I told you earlier that all of the police dogs, all of the canine units, even those off duty, had been called to the scene over here in the effort to search for this suspect. And I would imagine that some of those have been relieved now as the actual search area continues to widen over here in southwest Houston. So the word to the wise is for those that live around this area in southwest Houston, please stay indoors until this comes to a conclusion. Eric, Lona?
All right, Don. Yeah, thanks a lot. It's amazing to see just how far officers have moved there and searching that Keegan's Bayou. But we're also getting some more information from some of the schools, Alona.
Yeah, a little bit of an update here. We were telling you that Gross Elementary was allowing parents to pick up their students. Valley West Elementary also now operating under a structured release, as they are calling it, and they are releasing that information to those parents. They have HISD and HPD there on the scene, HISD police and the Houston Police Department at those schools, making sure that those children are safe as they are released from school. Again, Valley West Elementary and Gross Elementary under that structured release. Welch Middle School is still on lockdown, and we have been told, HISD is telling us, that Welch Middle School will stay on lockdown as long as this shelter in place is underway. So we can certainly wait for the cue from HPD on that one, and we'll keep you up to date for any parents out there, but just know that your child is in school and safe.
All right, and
okay, HPD is actually, we are just being told by HISD that HPD has issued an all clear for those schools. Now it sounds like all 3 schools, correct? Okay, so correct that it's all 3 schools. HPD has just cleared them. That information I was giving you was just recently sent out by the school, but apparently HPD has now cleared all 3 schools. So some good news for parents as they are waiting to go pick up their children or waiting for them to come home.
yes, very good news there. Now, moments ago, Sky Eye had showed you that vantage point from Keegan's Bayou where search was going on. That was about 2 miles away. Now he's zeroed back in on the actual crime scene right there. You can see officers still there, but here's another live picture as well. And you can see it looks like this might be one of the, this is Welch Middle School right here. And again, they had been on lockdown with this 1,800 home shelter in place, but now we're being told again that they've been given the all clear. Apparently officers went in there. We can see them outside the school right here and searched that school. It was given the all clear. What we're not sure of just yet is if they are releasing students at this point.
Yeah, they're saying that all students will be dismissed. We haven't seen a lot of students walking out. We can see one student there in the shot. You also do see police officers there on the scene, and certainly probably an unsettling picture for parents to have gone through all this today, but just rest assured knowing that police officers are there at the schools making sure everyone's safe, and we are being told that they're going to be releasing all students. Now, of course, they have to make that all happen in an orderly process, so we're expecting that to take the next few minutes to get that ball rolling, but we're going to keep an eye on what's happening at those schools for you.
Yes, and again, we're also monitoring just how serious the wounds are of the 2 officers involved. One's a 24-year veteran, one's a 10-year veteran. We have Marla Carter outside of Memorial Hermann Hospital, where the 24-year veteran, or Officer Ronnie Cortez, who was shot multiple times, he was initially in critical condition. Let's go back to Marla Carter live.
Yes, he was taken to the hospital in critical condition. We have been told that his condition has been improved, but he's still in critical condition. And right now, the police chief, Chief Acevedo, is inside visiting with him again, and he is expected to be back outside any minute now and is going to give another update on that patient's condition. Looks like, is he approaching right now? Nope, he's not. But we do expect him to come out here shortly and give us another update. Again, that is 24-year-old veteran of HPD, Ronnie Cortez, taken to the hospital in critical condition. We do know that his loved ones are here. He is with his family. He has met with the mayor. He has met with the police chief, and more family members are set to arrive. But certainly a very upsetting and devastating situation for them. The police chief had some very tough words for that suspect or suspects that shot him. He's basically said, you know, we are going to find you, and we have deployed hundreds of units to find you, and some very tough words. You know, I know we've been talking a lot about that perimeter in that area, but he's really expressed great concern for the residents living in the area, in the neighborhood where those officers were shot. He has said if they are going to shoot at police officers, those are very violent individuals, so stay in your home, take shelter, and if you hear something, if you hear some rustling around in your backyard, if you hear your dog barking, if you hear anything out of the normal, then make sure you call police. Let them know, because that could be an indication that that individual is in their backyard. The description that we have on that suspect at this point in time is a Hispanic man wearing all black with a blue bandana. And again, we're hearing that they've been really kind of searching that area and also surveillance cameras to really try to find out who he is, but they are not giving up. They've deployed all of their units. And as far as this individual, Ronnie, he has seen a lot of support as well. A number of officers have come by, members of the union. We've seen city councilors, again, the mayor, the police chief, all here for Officer Cortez to show their support. And this has just been a very difficult day for the officers as well, because this is one of their own. This is one of their brothers, and this is something that they take very personal. And, you know, you could just see the signs of respect for him today, even when he was brought here. We were here early this afternoon when police units arrived and the police escort, as his ambulance was escorted here to Memorial Hermann. And a number of the exits and on-ramps on the highway were blocked off to really ensure that he would get here really expeditiously, that he wouldn't be in any traffic sort of situation. You know, it's a very busy area here in the Med Center. These streets were all blocked off as well, so he could get here as expeditiously as possible. And then he received really prompt care. And again, we did hear from the City of Houston's EMS director, who did say that he is in critical condition. His condition has improved. We do not know at this point in time where he was shot. That's not information they're disclosing. But again, he is still in critical condition. His family is here. His fellow officers are here for their support. And we are still waiting on the police chief to give us an update here from Memorial Hermann. Back to you guys.
All right, just as soon as that briefing begins with the police chief, we'll be going back to you. Marla, thank you. Certainly prayers coming from all around the city and the region for those officers as hopefully they continue to heal there. So thank you for that update. In the meantime, we're watching what's happening with the elementary schools. We are watching sky eye aerials of the actual neighborhood. You can see all those police still on the scene. But this is what's happening at Gross Elementary for all of those parents trying to figure out what exactly is going on.
That's right. We've just gotten word that there are some students being released there at this point. A lot of the schools we told you about, Valley West Elementary, Gross Elementary, along with Welch Middle School, were on a delayed dismissal because of the shelter in place for 1,800 homes here in the Glenshire subdivision. But take a look. Parents have shown up here at Gross Elementary. They are picking up some of their students. This is much earlier today. You can see that mom waiting anxiously.
We all would be there, right?
Yes, get at her son or daughter. But some good news right here. And you can see some of those students finally coming out, and parents there anxiously waiting to pick up their kids and finally get them home because of, just a nerve-wracking incident that's taken place here in their subdivision.
Yeah, no doubt those children aren't totally understanding what it is that's happening outside. And, the teachers do such a great job of keeping everyone calm and making them feel safe when the norm is not being followed and they're not being allowed to leave and go home as normal. But no doubt a lot of relieved parents getting over there to Gross Elementary to go pick up their children this afternoon. Back up to these aerials. We did show you some action happening over at Keegan's Bayou, but you can certainly see a huge contingent of officers still here in the neighborhood as well. This has been going on for over 4 hours now at this point, and you can see that they are still there on the scene looking for that at least one other suspect, and they have so much area to get through. This is the actual scene where the incident took place earlier today.
Yeah, you heard Chief Acevedo just say it plainly that this suspect, who they say is wearing some dark clothing and possible blue bandana, Hispanic male, well, he's already fired at officers, so he is armed and dangerous. We have Christine Dobbin, who is in this Glenshire subdivision. She's been monitoring the comings and goings, and police activity is there. What's the latest, Christine?
Well, Eric, on Oglethorpe, it's been a bit of a traffic jam, really. In the last few minutes, we saw dozens of police cruisers actually leaving the scene, K-9 units, constables. Now there's been a string of residents who have been on lockdown for the last several hours. You can see it goes way back and around the bend. So they have certainly shrunk down the search area, and it looks like they have cleared at least part of the neighborhood. We're still waiting for a spokesperson from the police department who's been at the staging area to update us on what exactly the situation is now. We know they are still holding that scene, and those crime scene officers have been at the scene where the suspect was killed for the past several hours. But what an afternoon it has been here. An amazing display of law enforcement presence. I just lost count at some point. We saw so many go in, K-9 officers, SWAT officers from virtually, it seemed like every department in this city, and many of them coming in unmarked vehicles and searching. But things are certainly calming down, much quieter in this area. It looks like at least some of the residents are able to move about now, and at least some of that police activity on our end here has left the scene, but they still have not found that last suspect that the police chief has described as very armed and dangerous.
Yeah, Christine, and you know, this picture right here of these vehicles leaving, you know, one would ask, since then they had set up a perimeter around this Glenshire subdivision. Now we see these vehicles leaving. These vehicles are not being searched at all, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. So that would indicate that they have searched this area and these people are being allowed to leave. And we've seen everything from painting vans, a moving van. So a lot of people, I think, were on complete lockdown in this area. And now they're being allowed to at least travel through or leave their homes or the area where they were working.
Yeah, and as you said, it's a literal traffic jam out there. Folks have been stuck for hours and hours, either not able to leave or not be able to get back home. So certainly they were all anxious to be able to get moving again. We don't know at this point if officers have literally gone through each and every property, do we, Christine? I mean, whether or not they walked around every single backyard and looked in every shed. I know that you are, you know, sort of locked down in that one area there. Don Armstrong's been watching above the scene, and he has seen that happening in some of the backyards, but we're not exactly sure how thorough they were able to conduct a search on 1,800 homes, right?
That's right. We know they were going to try and be as thorough as possible and search every single home and area and try to sort of shrink the search area. We could only see so much activity from our viewpoint, but that was a lot of area to search, and they certainly had a large presence to do it. But it looks at least like on this end of the Glenshire neighborhood, we're right next to the Beltway or the Sam Houston Parkway, that they have at least finished that search right here where we are.
Okay. All right, Christine. Yeah, it definitely looks like there is a sort of different shelter in place now, another phase of it anyway, that is allowing these people to leave, along with a lot of officers. We saw several law enforcement vehicles right there leaving the subdivision. So it looks like something is taking place. Either they maybe feel the suspect's no longer in the area possibly, or moving their search to focus on a different specific area at this point.
And we're waiting for that briefing from the police chief, so hopefully he'll be able to fill us in on whether some sort of an all clear has been given there, because we've also seen similar activity happening at the schools. After those schools in the area were on lockdown, parents have been told they can come pick up the kids, and dismissal is in fact happening. That's the case over at Welch Middle School, where we have seen parents showing up to pick up the kids. Eyewitness News reporter Chauncey Glover is there on the scene, and no doubt you're seeing a lot of relieved parents and students, right, Chauncey?
Yeah, that's right. They just let out about 5 minutes ago. Let me show you what the scene is looking like right now. You have these students coming out. Of course, they're excited about being on TV and seeing the cameras here, but certainly a serious situation here when HISD decided to lock down the following schools, Valley West Elementary School as well as Gross Elementary, and this school right here, Welch. They had those schools locked down for a while, and then they just released. They sent parents a text message saying that the schools were locked down. they will be on a delayed release. But let's walk over here and get away from the students, of course. But many parents still showed up, and they just parked their cars here. And now those parents have been waiting. And like I said, about 5 minutes ago, they did release school, releasing these students back to their parents. Of course, a lot of parents telling me that they were concerned. Ma'am, did you get that text message from the school district saying that the school was on lockdown?
Yes.
Yeah, what was going through your mind when you got that text message? I'm sure you were concerned for your child or children.
I didn't know that my daughter had called and told me. I got one down at Gross too.
Got you. What did your daughter say that school officials were saying inside the school?
I called and they just said they was going to keep him for a while longer.
Gotcha. All right, but that lockdown, as you said, has been lifted. All three schools now, the lockdown has been lifted at all three schools, and parents, as you see, are picking up their children. Of course, we will follow this and also speak with HISD officials to see how these schools were impacted today as a result of these lockdowns. But for now, reporting live, back to you all in the studio.
All right, a much different scene right there, Chauncey. A lot of students glad to finally be out of school after being there probably for close to an hour now. But here's what I want to take you as well. Chief Art Acevedo giving another press conference to reporters there, I believe, at Memorial Hermann. Let's listen in.
It's important that as we draw down resources and have resources leave the area, the community realize that there was a second suspect that is related to burglaries in that neighborhood, potentially related to the shooting. We're not sure yet, but there is a second suspect that we're looking for. But at this point, we're going to end the lockdown. So if you see something, be vigilant for the next couple of hours. If you see something, hear something, someone says doesn't look like they belong in the area, they're suspicious, call 911. We'd rather that you report it and be on the safe side than not report it. If you see a vehicle that's suspicious that you've never seen in the area, just report it. We don't want to leave any stone unturned to try to find this additional suspect. I can tell you that as a result of today's event, we've identified 3 homes that were burglarized today. We haven't been able to determine at this point the relationship of the suspect that's deceased at the scene with each individual burglary, but we know that he was involved in at least one burglary. Again, I want to thank the community for its patience. I want to thank Mayor Turner and the council members who came out here for their leadership. Pastor Nash was just here, visiting with our officers. The outpouring of prayers and love and messages from this community have been really heartwarming and really touched the heart of our officers. But like everything else, this department will continue forward. You know, we may be bruised, we may be battered, we may be shot, but our men and women, they don't just get to shut down. They don't get to take the night off. We continually be fully operational. We'll continue to serve this community. So with that, I want to thank everybody again for today. It's been a trying day, but please continue to pray for our 2 officers who, are still here with us. One's in really good shape. The other one seems to be improving, but he's got some significant injuries, wounds, and so we just need to continue prayers for a recovery, a full recovery, which what we want people to pray for. A full recovery for both officers. With that, I'll open it up to any questions, and then again, this will be the...
¿Por qué cancelan la búsqueda hasta ahora?
Porque ya no nos encontramos, queremos que la comunidad sepa que aunque vamos a salir de ahí, van a ver los oficiales empezar a salir de la área, que es importante que sigan con la vigilancia.
All right, you've been listening to Chief Art Acevedo there outside Memorial Hermann Hospital, where we know that Ronnie Cortez, a 24-year veteran, is being taken care of in there. He was shot multiple times and was initially in critical condition, but is said to be doing a bit better now that he's in the care of Memorial Hermann. Now, if you're just joining us, this all started around 11 a.m. The Glenshire subdivision in far southwest Houston. We just heard from Chief Acevedo that as many as 3 homes were burglarized. Police were called into that area. A scene was set up, and they got a tip from a homeowner that their shed looked ajar, the door to the shed. Officers, 2 of them, Officer Munoz and Officer Cortez, approached that shed. That is when a suspect opened fire on both of them. Both officers were hit. And at that point, they returned with gunfire, killing that suspect there at the scene. But a second suspect, we're told, is still on the loose, Hispanic male, in black clothing wearing a blue bandana. And that's why you've seen this perimeter set up around the Glenshire subdivision. But let's go back to the chief here for just a moment.
It's suspicious, and for the rest of the day today, please call 911. If you saw somebody earlier today in the neighborhood, if you saw vehicles, anything that seemed out of the ordinary, don't just dismiss it. Please report it to us, so our investigators obviously are looking for at least one more individual that was involved in multiple burglaries.
Any indications where this person may have gone? Are you shifting your search somewhere else?
No, we are ending and suspending our search for now.
Was there any kind of arrest made out there that you know of?
I'm not aware of any arrests. Yeah.
Chief, have you spoken with the officer? He's talked about how
We have talked to the officer. He's alert. I mean, you know, a guy that's been shot multiple times with a very, very significant wounds. It's just this guy is not a spring chicken. He's been around for 24 years, is my recollection. Think about somebody 24 years. You know, that's not a teenager, and for that man to sustain these really serious wounds and still be talking and communicating, it just speaks to the mental toughness, the psychological toughness. I think it speaks to his character. And think about a 24-year veteran of a police department that rather than, you know, not be engaged, this guy went out looking for people that he knew might do him harm. So it says a lot about his character, and I'm really proud to be his chief. I'm really proud. I know Chief Finner, who handles all the patrols, very proud. Chief Bunick, so the other executive assistant chief, just very proud of the fact that our cops are just, I love cops. That's why I still come to work.
What is he saying? What kind of things is he talking about?
I mean, I think he's talking about he's in pain, I'll tell you that much. But he's alert. His family's here. Again, his daughter's en route from the East Coast. We reached out to United Airlines, and they're actually flying her out. So to United, this one's for you. Thank you for helping us out. That's, you know, obviously when you have these kind of traumatic injuries, sometimes it's best to not do anything. I'm not a doctor, but I've been in this business long enough, as you all have, that we know sometimes it takes 24 to 48 hours to let the body kind of stabilize a little bit and to do additional testing to then come up with a comprehensive treatment plan. But we want this officer, he's got the heart of a lion, you know, and so when somebody's got that kind of heart, it's somebody that I'd like to see and pray that he can make it back to work. So let's hope and pray for a full recovery. Estos oficiales tienen un gran carácter, tienen los corazones de leones. Empezaron a combatir contra el sospechoso en esa casita chiquitica atrás de la casa y cuando el sospechoso sacó la pistola y empezó a disparar, no huyeron, no se rindieron, fajaron para atrás, dispararon para atrás y gracias a Dios están los dos vivos. And so what I was saying, that both of these officers have the hearts of lions. You know, when you're fighting in tight quarters like they were in that small storage shed and a suspect suddenly produces a firearm and starts shooting, they didn't cower, they didn't run away. They stayed in the fight and they engaged the suspect, and you know, obviously in their own defense they ended up killing the suspect, but he's got nobody to blame but himself. So again, thank you very much. So one more question, I'll get out of here.
Your guys were doing
It's been a shootout between some individuals in the lodge, and that she knew that some officer had been hit.
An attempted burglary ends with 2 Houston police officers in the hospital, one in critical condition.
Pray for the ones who have been injured. Pray for the ones who are out here responding every single day to the call. They're brothers and sisters, but at this point in time, they're all our brothers and sisters, and so let's pray for them.
One suspect was killed, but the search for at least one other suspect led to a shelter in place for more than 1,800 people.
And right now on Eyewitness News at 4, the search for that suspect continues.
Yes, Police Chief Art Acevedo telling that man that his officers are not going anywhere and they will find him. Eyewitness News reporter Jessica Willey joins us now live from the neighborhood with what happened. Jessica?
Yeah, Lona, we're just about a block away from where these officers were shot down here in Sterling Game at Chadwell. This is the closest we have been able to get since this all started. Houston police officers still on the scene. This was previously blocked off up until about 30 minutes ago. This entire neighborhood, Glenshire, you couldn't get into. There were lots of officers on the ground, canines from all kinds of different task force and departments, but that has been lifted. A lot of those officers have now left, although this investigation is still going on. This all happened around just after 11 o'clock this morning. Officers got a call about a burglary in progress here on Sterling Game. When they responded, a homeowner alerted them to a shed in the back. There was a door ajar there, and when they jumped the fence to get to that shed, they were confronted by a gunman who shot two of the officers. Those officers, of course, rushed to the hospital, and one suspect then was able to run off. Officers from all departments nearby flooded the area, searched homes, cleared homes, knocking on doors, looking for this second suspect. But after several hours, they have decided to call that very intense active search off, although they do believe there is one suspect still on the run. Again, an investigation starting with the shooting of the suspect who is now dead in the backyard of that home where that burglary in progress is. That is underway, as well as how these officers were shot and what happened in those tense moments. And again, Houston police still looking for that second suspect, although the search not as intense right now. This is the closest we have been able to get since this all happened just after 11 o'clock this morning. We will continue to stay here and bring you the latest. For now, we are live in southwest Houston. Jessica Willie, 13 Eyewitness News.
All right, Jessica, thank you for the update from the ground there as we continue to look at these live pictures from Sky Eye as well. Even though they have ended the lockdown of that neighborhood, of those 1,800 homes, there's still a crime scene right here where all of this went down. And you can see the police tape still up. As Jessica mentioned, that suspect that was shot is still there on the scene. The suspect that was killed is there on the scene. You can see officers still conducting an investigation and a very heavy police presence. Even after that lockdown has been lifted, they certainly are still in this neighborhood.
Yes, and one of the two officers that was shot by that suspect is a 10-year veteran by the name of Officer Munoz. He, we're told, was hit in the leg. He was taken to Ben Taub Hospital. That's where we've had Eyewitness News reporter Maya Shea stationed for the latter part of this afternoon. Maya, what's the latest there?
Officer Jose Munoz is in stable condition. As we have been reporting throughout the afternoon, he has been alert, has been talking to both his wife, the police chief, the mayor who have visited, as well as other police officers who have visited here. Officer Munoz's injuries are not life-threatening. He could be released as early as tomorrow. His counterpart, Officer Cortez at Memorial Hermann, suffered much more serious injuries. The police chief all afternoon, besides being at the scene, has been going back and forth between these two hospitals to check on the two officers. He was obviously moved by the bravery of the officers, and minutes ago, this is what he had to say about the actions of his officers today.
You know, I think what we saw today was the courage of the American police officer. As much as we, as a society, like to disparage police officers, the truth of the matter remains that the very vast majority of our men and women are honorable, they're courageous, they're brave, they don't run away from danger, they run towards danger, and that's what we saw here today.
And in fact, both officers Cortez and Munoz are members of the Gessner TAC unit. They were specifically on some sort of burglary-related operations because of reports of specific burglaries on the increase in that area where all of this happened today. Again, for the officer here, Officer Munoz, he is doing well. He could be released as early as tomorrow. For now, we're live at Ben Taub Hospital. Maya Shea, 13. Eyewitness News.
Certainly some great news about that officer when we talk about potentially being able to go home. So much love and support coming from the community and certainly from his police family out there. Maya, we appreciate the update from Ben Taub.
Sky Eye continues to stay in the neighborhood right there. The home center of your screen is where all of this happened right there. If you see that backyard, you see some crime scene investigators, the man there in the white coat. Well, he's standing in front of the shed where that suspect, we're told, was hiding when officers confronted him. That's where the shootout took place right there. So you can see an investigation continues right now with crime scene investigators on scene. Now, just outside of the neighborhood right here, a few streets away, is Eyewitness News reporter Christine Dobbin. She's been monitoring police activity as well as talking to some residents in the area. What's the latest, Christine?
Well, Eric, what a change we've seen even in the last few minutes. We actually just saw the last constable leave the scene here and open this area up here at the front of the Glenshire neighborhood. This is at Oglethorpe and just off the Sam Houston West Parkway. And lots of police officers just lining this street all afternoon, and an amazing presence of police officers as they moved in with canines and SWAT officers. They canvassed this area, and we could actually see some of the activity from where we are, and some of the people standing in their garages, standing outside their homes initially when that lockdown took place. A lot of them went inside. They did shelter in place, and then we've sort of seen the neighborhood come back alive as the police have left, and some of the neighbors have been leaving through this or along this road here on Oglethorpe. Here you see a Houston Fire Department vehicle leaving the scene, but very tense moments as a lot of people in this neighborhood were trying to figure out exactly what was going on, and they are relieved right now that things are getting back to normal here. But of course, of concern is that suspect who is still at large, was not found, but the police chief reiterating and speaking to him directly, saying that they will find him. Live on the Southwest Side, Christine Dobbin, 13 Eyewitness News. Eric?
All right, Christine, yes, a much different picture from when we first checked in with you a couple of hours ago. As we know, the chief said the search has ended for now. They'd searched for several hours, put that neighborhood, Glenshire subdivision, on lockdown, had a perimeter set up outside of that neighborhood, thought they had contained the suspect. But at this point, they've ended that shelter in place. They said their search is over, and all the students at Valley West Elementary, Welch Middle School, and Gross Elementary have been allowed to leave school at this point.
All right, we want to go back to Memorial Hermann Hospital in the Med Center. That is where the more seriously injured officer, Officer Ronnie Cortez, was taken, and where the police chief just gave us an update. Marla Carter is also there with an update for us. Good afternoon, Marla.
Good afternoon, Alona. Yeah, the police chief is still here. He just finished talking to the media, announcing that lockdown is ending. He said officers are ending the search in the neighborhood, but he says they are still very dedicated to finding this suspect. All we do know is that he's described as a Hispanic man wearing dark clothing with a blue bandana. He said right now he's really asking for people in the neighborhood to be really vigilant and to think back. Did they see any suspicious cars in the neighborhood, or something that didn't belong, or someone that they're not used to seeing, or somebody that matches that description, to really alert them, because again, they are still hoping to find that suspect, but the lockdown has ended. Now, he also gave us an update on the condition of Officer Cortez. He has been with the department for 24 years, and his family is with him right now. Other family members, his daughter is flying in. In fact, he was very grateful to one specific airline for making that happen on such short notice. Here's what the chief had to say just moments ago.
We've made arrangements for out-of-state family members and out-of-city family members to come. I've heard that United Airlines is helping us bring a daughter from back east, and I just want to say thank you, United Airlines, for being our partners and for helping us out.
Now, Officer Cortez was taken to the hospital in critical condition. We heard that his condition improved, but it's still listed as critical. As far as this investigation, what happens now that the lockdown is over? What happens now that the search has been discontinued? Well, the chief said that they're going to go forward. They're going to go with any leads that they can get, and that's why they're really asking the public to help. If you heard something, if you saw something, anything that seemed out of the ordinary, to let them know. He also said that the suspects have been involved in at least 3 home burglaries, and potentially collecting evidence from that could help in this case as well. Reporting live from the Med Center, Marla Carter, 13 Eyewitness News.
All right, Marla, thanks a lot for the live update. Yes, 2 officers shot. 1 suspect shot dead by them after they returned fire. 1 suspect armed and dangerous still on the loose, we're told by police, as a lot of prayers go out to those 2 wounded Houston police officers.
Now, we are just getting started here on Eyewitness News at 4. As we take you to a quick break, we want to remind you that because of our breaking news coverage, we will be rebroadcasting General Hospital at 1:37 a.m. Of course, if you can't stay up that late or that early, Be sure to set your DVR for that. Again, 1:37 in the morning, General Hospital. We will be right back after a quick break.